With the NFC East Division still wide open, the 0-4 Eagles hope for a reversal of fortune. After playing musical chairs at quarterback, Ray Rhodes appears to have chosen the future over the present. But for Bobby Hoying, the future is today in the Rockies, where they face the undefeated Broncos. The defending Super Bowl champions remain a well-oiled machine, which may be even better than last year's model. With an air of confidence and a sense of bravado, they are on track to add more hardware to their trophy case. Mile High Stadium in Denver on a cool, clear afternoon, breezy, as the Broncos entertain the Philadelphia Eagles. An atmosphere like no other. Pat Summerall here, and one of the big items going into today's game is who will start at quarterback for Denver. It won't be John Elway. John, I went down and talked to him a few moments ago on the field. He told me it was very painful. He then had a conversation with his head coach, Mike Shanahan, and then went over and spoke to Bobby Brister, who will replace him as the starter this afternoon. Elway was in extreme pain. This is John Madden, of course, with me. And, John, when you look at the change in quarterbacks from Elway to Bobby Brister, what does that do to Denver?
Well, you know, it has to bring them down a little. I mean, there's no way you can take a great player like John Elway out of the offense and say, well, it doesn't do anything, because we remember the last time we were here just a couple weeks ago against the Dallas Cowboys, and on John Elway, the first 5 times they had the ball, they scored 5 touchdowns. That was one of the greatest offensive performances that I had ever seen. Now, with Bobby Brister, I think what the Broncos do, they'll move a little more, they'll bootleg him a little more, they still have the same receivers, they'll do all those kinds of things, but I think it's really about Terrell Davis. You know, that's just what made this a championship offense when they got Terrell Davis, and maybe the most underrated part of this offense is their offensive line.
Yesterday after practice and during the week, the Denver defense is the one questionable part of this machine. Mike Shanahan, the defense is ranked 20 in the NFL, by the way. Mike Shanahan challenged that defense to a better performance, and that's what he's hoping today. That's what the Eagles face.
Yeah, and if the Eagles have any chance, it's going to be that. I mean, they come in here, they're 0-4. They went from Bobby Hoying starting quarterback, and then he gets injured, and Rodney Peete comes in. Now they're going back to Bobby Hoying today. And one thing I know, when you play Denver, Mike Shanahan is a very aggressive play caller. They are going to score a lot of points. So you have to be aggressive, too. And that's what Ray Rhodes said last night. He was talking and saying, Bobby Hoying has to go out there and he has to make plays. In fact, he says he has to pull the trigger. He has to get the ball down the field, because when you come in here, and I know I've come in here as a coach, you have to come in ready for a shootout at Mile High Stadium.
So Elway will not play. It'll be Bobby Brister, and coming up at the Philadelphia Eagles and the Denver Broncos to Mile High Stadium. And John and I'll be back for the opening kickoff when Fox NFL Sunday continues.
E-Trade, someday we'll all invest this way, presents the return of the week.
What a return!
In the NFL, special teams put out the fires that clear safe running lanes. Last Sunday, the Ravens did just that, snuffing out defenders and igniting this 87-yard touchdown run. When the smoke cleared, it was Baltimore on top of Cincinnati, 31-24.
When the market caught the Asian flu and the ruble turned to ruble, who was looking out for your interests? Instead of calling your stockbroker, you could be calling your own shots on the new E-Trade, getting free real-time quotes, breaking news alerts, continuous portfolio tracking, 24-hour access. It's the #1 rated place to invest online. If you're interested in looking out for your own interests, call 1-800-E-TRADE-1 to find out why. Someday, we'll all invest this way.
Fox Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
Mile High Stadium in Denver. Pat Summerall with John Madden. For those of you who might have just joined us, John Elway is out with a bad back. Bobby Brister will start at quarterback for the Broncos, who will receive the kickoff. Elway in extreme pain as he came out and tried to warm up with the team before the game. He had a bad hamstring, and I suppose that's related to the bad back he has now. But he said, I got to find out what's wrong with this, and it must be, John, more serious than we thought and he thought.
Yeah, in fact, even yesterday when we were talking to him, he couldn't sit in a chair, and he was saying that the hamstring that he injured first, he said, was very minor compared to the pain that he was having with his back. Interesting. The Philadelphia Eagles are having trouble with the kickoff here. There is a lot of wind down in the field.
They sure
is. Of course, they have to have a holder.
Brian Dawkins is up to hold it. Ex-Eagle Vaughn Hebron back to receive the kickoff, and the Broncos machine will go into action as Hebron juggles and brings it out of the end zone. The kickoff by Bonio. And again, the Eagles special teams, as they've been doing, do an excellent job. Tim McTire down to make the stop. Let's look at the Denver offense. Quarterback by Bubby Brister, out of football for a year. Came back a couple of years ago and found a place here with Denver. Tony Jones, Mark Schlereth, Nayland, Neal, and Swain in front of him. Terrell Davis, Howard Griffith, the two backs, Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey having a great year, and Shannon Sharp.
Mike Shanahan was saying yesterday that he wants to start off with this first play to loosen up this Eagle defense. And his first two plays are going to be pass plays. Maybe this first one a deep one early.
McCaffrey in motion. Rod Smith is the deep receiver usually. But McCaffrey is wide open across midfield to the Eagle 37-yard line before he's knocked out of bounds. And that's what they did to Dallas.
That will loosen him up.
Yes,
that's
will.
Mike Shanahan we talk about. He's being an aggressive guy. Here we're going to see Ed McCaffrey. He's going to start in motion. He's going to go all the way across the formation. Then he's going to come back on a cross all the way back across here. And that is something. He started on one side, all the way across the formation, all the way across the field. And even Ray Rhodes said about Ed McCaffrey, because he was with him in San Francisco, this guy has sneaky speed.
Troy Benson was the Eagle defensive back assigned to him, and he fell down when McCaffrey made the cut.
Well, you know, McCaffrey is a big, strong guy, and I think there was a little bump involved there.
Pass was out to Sharp with flags on the play. Mike Carey, the referee.
On the offense, 5 yards, remains first down.
We know that Mike Shanahan strips the first 15 plays, and like he told us yesterday, the first two plays, and he didn't even know whether it was going to be John Elway or Bubby Brister. And Mike Shanahan, like I said, a very aggressive play caller. It doesn't make any difference. He wanted to, you know, sometimes they say you want to establish a run in order to pass. This guy wants to loosen you up in order to run later.
A two tight end setup for Denver. Sharp intended. Incomplete and out of bounds. Let's look at the Eagles' defense. They play a 4-3, and those are the four up front. Hugh Douglas, Johnson, Hollis Thomas, and Greg Jefferson. William Thomas, James Willis, and James Darling, the linebackers. The secondary, Harris and Vincent on the corners. Brian Dawkins, and Michael Zordich started the two safeties. Matt Stevens will alternate with Zordich. Davis gets the carry, cuts it back. Gets about 6. James Willis stripped him up.
Well, this guy's something as Terrell Davis. You know, I mean, not only as a football player, but as a guy. I mean, you just talk to him, and you can just see why he's such a favorite of all the players, and why players enjoy blocking for him, because they know that you don't know where the ball's going to end up, but when Terrell Davis has it, he's going to keep working that thing.
They also see how he blocks when that's required.
And you know, when you look at running backs that block, he's one of the best in football. Look at this, no one in the backfield.
Brister, 5 wide receivers. Across the middle of Rod Smith. First down, Denver. Smith stays on his feet. Knocked out of bounds finally, but he never went down.
This is the way that they spread you out. Look, here's a receiver here. 5 on the line. Of course, one of them is Terrell Davis, one of them is Shannon Sharp. So they have 3 wide receivers in there, a tight end and a running back. But they spread you out, loosen you up, And I'll tell you, Bubby Brister, all he has to do, because he has time back here in the shotgun, is just look, and they're always, when you have 5 guys out like that, there always has to be someone open.
Especially when your offensive line does the job that Denver's does. Davis. Cuts back to 20.
Yeah, it's interesting. Back we were talking about John Elway. We saw him in the warm-up. You were down there in the field and talked to him. And as I looked down there in the bench, he's not even on the field. I think that he came out for warm-up. In fact, when he first came out, he looked kind of frisky, like maybe he could play. And then the more he threw, it just went down and down and down. And I'll bet you the next picture we see of John Elway will probably be in street clothes.
Well, he said to me, I can't run. He treated it with ice. He went to a chiropractor right after practice yesterday. Treated it with ice at home. And here's Brister, who gives to Davis, and Davis is going to score.
That's the thing Terrell Davis was telling us yesterday, that he likes to run inside, but in order to run inside, you got to bounce it outside once in a while.
He makes it look so easy.
Yep. He says after he gets the ball and he gets out in the open space, he tries to relax. You see right here, now right when he turns the corner, now he relaxes. He says because you can run faster when you're relaxed than when you're all tightened up.
Did you notice that Griffith, the fullback, went in the opposite direction?
Yeah, because I think they're probably starting to key Griffith, because they had been running to the side of Griffith all the time.
Extra point by Jason Elam is good.
You know, everyone has to make some kind of block. Now here's what you're talking about. Griffith goes this way, so Philadelphia thinks that they're going to go the way the fullback goes, and we're going to just take the ball to the outside. You know, Shannon Sharp gets just enough block right there. And that allows Terrell Davis to bounce to the outside.
Yes.
And then once he gets to the outside, he has whatever speed he needs.
He just shielded Darling off.
We get a little block right out here. Terrell Davis is just going to come. He's going to fake inside. See, that brought the safety. When he faked in that 6-hole, that brought the safety up into that 6-hole, which is the off-tackle hole, and then he jumped out to the 8-hole.
Thunder is the name of the horse. I don't know the lady's name.
Yeah, you don't want to see. If you're a visiting team, you don't want to see Thunder too much.
No. We might have some thunder in the area.
Well, there's a lot of wind down in the field. You can see that in the pregame warm-up.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could feel that down there. And one thing, you know, all those years having coached the Oakland Raiders, coming in here and playing in Denver, you never know what the weather's going to be, but whatever it is, just wait a while, because it's going to change anyway.
Very quickly. I know from doing the golf tournament out here in late summer, you never knew.
Now the Broncos are going to have to get a hold of it. They allow you one time, if the ball blows off the tee, then you have to put it back up, but you also have to bring someone in to hold it, so you don't stay here all day with the ball just blowing off the tee.
And the holder puts no pressure on the ball, but it's amazing what an effect that has.
He's wobbling.
He's wobbling in the rest.
He's trouble holding the thing up.
See? Fielded by Alan Rossum, and Rossum got a lot of room. Flag on the play as Rossum gets all the way down inside the 30 to the 27, but there's a penalty marker down.
No, but this is the thing that Ray Rhodes was talking about, and all the Eagle players were talking about how penalties have been killing them. We're going to see that this penalty is against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ray Rhodes is not a happy head coach.
During the return, holding on the return, team number 96. 10-yard penalty.
96 is Al Wallace.
Ray Rhodes is going to have to talk with someone.
In a striped shirt, I think.
I tell you, those are the kind of things that 0-4 teams do.
Yep.
You know, I mean, they make a drive on you, you score. Now you have to come back. You have to make something happen. You do make something happen, and boom, lo and behold, there's a doggone flag, and it's against you.
The Eagles' special teams have improved dramatically. Hoying gives to Deuce Staley, and that looks like a challenge defense. Let's look at the Philadelphia offense, led by Bobby Hoying. He had 2 weeks ago, came back to start this afternoon. Trey Thomas, what a prospect he looks like. Mayberry, Everett, Beckles, Deuce Staley, and Kevin Turner, the running backs, and they're set to go. No, they're not set to go. Second and 12, they lost
5 on the game clock, please.
1 second they want on the game clock. 12:04 it says they want at 12:05. Up 1.
And he's not going to let him play until it gets up 1.
Mike Carey.
He's coming over here. He's coming over here. That's the 04. He wants that to be 05.
The 01 second.
And then he came all the way over to this Broncos sideline. And now it is 12:05, so Mike Carey's going to let him play.
Well, the umpire's not.
He has to stand over the ball because that thing with the wind may just blow away.
Deuce Staley deep. Hoying. Intended for Irving Fryer. Let's look at that defense that's been challenged by Shanahan. Tanabasu, Price, Traylor, Neil Smith, the front four, Mobley, Kadrez, and Romanowski, all having good years. The linebacking core, Darian Gordon, Atwater, Eric Brown, and Ray Crockett. There's John Elway at street close. 3 wide receivers this time for Philadelphia. 3rd and 12. Hoying from the shotgun. Neil Smith forces him up in the pocket. And down he goes. In the arms of Harold Hasselbeck.
Yeah, Harold Hasselbeck is the Broncos are in a nickel defense. Hasselbeck comes in and he plays an end on this side. And you see he just starts up against Trey Thomas and he just gives him a bull rush. Trey Thomas, the rookie #1 draft choice, can't give that much. Good rush by Hasselbeck.
Tommy Hutton standing in the Eagle end zone to punt it. Snap. Hutton gets it out of there. Short kick. Takes an Eagle bounce. Midfield into Denver territory at their 48. And Bobby Brister will come back with this very talented Denver offense.
That thing came out of there like a knuckleball, didn't it? Wonder if that was a wind or just the way he kicked it.
It's Gary Kubiak with Brister.
Yeah, I think so far of all the teams that we've seen, that this is the most effective offense. I mean, the things that they're doing on offense, we see it when they run the ball.
Yep.
They run it as well as anyone. When they throw the ball, they throw it as well as anyone. When they create, formations and those kinds of things, they do that as well as anyone. I think right now this is the best offense in the NFL.
From what we've seen, it certainly is. Here's Brister back to throw it. Out to Sharp. I'd like to welcome those of you who watched Atlanta beat Carolina 51-23 to Mile High Stadium in Denver, where Denver leads Philadelphia 7-0.
I wonder what Jerry Richardson, the owner of Carolina, thinks now. He spent all those millions of dollars to make his defense better, and then they lose to Atlanta for the second time, and Atlanta scores over 50 points.
Good gosh. When's the last time Atlanta scored 50 points? Ever?
I don't know that they ever did.
Davis. This skips into the secondary. William Thomas brought him down.
It's interesting how Bubby Brister got here. 2 years ago, he was out of football, and Bill Romanowski saw him and said, he called up Mike Shanahan. He said, I'm with Bubby Brister here. He said, I think this guy is worth a look.
Well, they had played together with the Eagles.
Yeah, they had played together with the Eagles, and Bobby Brister had been cut by the Jets, and he was free, and Mike Shanahan had him in and said, gee, he started throwing the ball, he said, his arm is just like John's.
Yeah. John's in his heyday. Brister, low to Davis. Is that with himself? Denver.
We were talking about that offensive line of this Denver Broncos, and there's a guy right here, Alex Gibbs, who's the coach of that offensive line. And when you have to talk about offensive line coaches and who does a good job, I think Bob McKittrick in San Francisco is one of them, and Alex Gibbs right here in Denver is another.
Davis is the lone setback. Intended for Sharp. Incomplete. Welcome to those of you who watched the Buffalo Bills beat San Francisco. What a surprising final that is, 26-21 Buffalo over the 49ers. Welcome to Mile High Stadium. That, of course, John Elway did not start, couldn't go with a bad back. Denver still with Bubby Brister at quarterback. Looked very effective the first time they had the ball and drove it for a touchdown.
See, now they got the shotgun, but they have 4 wide receivers.
Brister. Close to a first down. And I believe he got it. Yes, he did.
See, and this is the reason John Elway's not playing today when he says that he couldn't run. You see, when they're going to get someone free coming off a corner, the quarterback has to be able to see that. Then he has to do one of 3 things. Get rid of the ball quickly. 2, he has to take a sack. Or 3, he has to run with the ball like Bubby Brister did here. John Elway, there's no way that he could do anything that would resemble that today.
That's so right. A lot of the Eagle players are slipping. We'll be surprised if we see some cleat changing. Here comes Davis again. To the 10. To about the 3 before Vincent finally slings him out of bounds.
What a great runner this guy is. You see how he starts out and he's strong, then he relaxes for a while, then he gets strong again. You can just see that in his body. Watch as a run starts. He's going to come out here to the left, but watch the difference. If there's anyone that's going to make contact with him, he is going to be strong. Now when he gets out, when he gets right here and breaks something, now he relaxes his running again, you see? And then he strengthens it again at the end for a straight arm.
That's the same thing, same play he scored the touchdown on, except he went the other way with it. Griffith, the fullback, went to the left and sealed things off. That time, the other time, Griffith went to his left, Davis went to his right.
You know, the one thing about playing this run, and anyone that has to defend the Denver Broncos will say, and the Eagles were talking about it last night, is they always have an onside, where the onside of the offensive line zone blocks. They stand up with you. And then the backside, the side away from where you're going, they cut. They knock you down. So he will run the backside of the play as much as he does the front side.
Just barely got it off. Brister throws quickly in a hurry. He tried to get it to Howard Griffith, and he is down. Hit hard, but up.
You don't expect that, you know, when you have a play pass like that, then you expect that they're going to honor the run. And you see that time he fakes to Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis had to get out there and he had to make that block, and he didn't get it done. One of the things the Eagles wanted to do was jam the receivers of the Broncos to throw off their timing. But that was tough, where Terrell Davis had to fake taking the ball and then make the block.
3rd and goal at the 3, a flag on the play.
Before the snap, false start, offense, number 69, 5 yards, remains 3rd down.
I think that's you wear your headset on a windy day like that. That's to adjust for it, because you bring everything down in front and tighter.
When your hair doesn't blow in your eyes either.
No, and then it's another way to keep your head on straight, because you're always worried. You know, as a coach, you always say, keep your head on straight, keep your head on your shoulders, and that helps you do it.
Brister. Touchdown, Ron Smith.
We were talking about the Dallas game, when the first 5 times the Broncos had the ball, they scored 5 touchdowns. Now we come here today, and the first 2 times they have the ball, they scored touchdowns. This is a machine that I don't know, unless you're a great defense, I don't know that you can stop this, because again, you see how they spread you out. Here they got just Rod Smith just running a crossing pattern, and with Bubby Brister back there in a shotgun, he can just wait, and at some point on a crossing pattern, that crossing receiver is going to be open.
Extra point is good, and it's 14-0 Denver. They make it look easy. 14-0, the Denver Broncos lead Philadelphia at Mile High Stadium. Scoring drive, the last one 9 plays, 52 yards. Scored by Rod Smith, an 8-yard pass from Brister. Corey Walker still on his feet. Walker take it down to the 35. Good return. The Eagles will take over. Bobby Hoying returns as their quarterback. Eagles ball as you look at John Elway on the sideline in street clothes. Very unhappy with the way his back is behaving. Really up to him. That play was doomed from the time they snapped it. Kevin Turner, the intended receiver.
Yeah, Trevor Price, number 93, just dived through there.
Yep.
He darn near beat Bobby Hoying back. But you'll see 93 right here. He's right in the middle there, and he's going to take off, and he hits that gap, and no one blocks him, and he was racing Bobby Hoying back to the passing point.
Yep. Here's Deuce Staley. What Mike Shanahan said to this defense, but it worked. Yesterday we spoke to Denver quarterback John Elway about missing today's and last week's game.
Well, you know, I think that because I haven't missed many games, I haven't experienced that. So, I mean, it was awful frustrating knowing you couldn't be out there and to know that, you know, it's the first time in a long time I've been physically not able to play. So I think that when you're mentally sharp and mentally want to play, to be held back physically is really tough. So it's not a fun experience. I think you realize how much you really enjoy playing when you're not allowed to play.
On 3rd and 8, Hoying is sacked by Trevor Price. Hoying had a bad back, and that's why Rodney Peete replaced him a couple of weeks ago, and now he is very slowly getting to his feet.
Yeah, that was his second hit in a row. He gets pressure from this side. You see Neil Smith starts to the outside, then he comes inside, and then Trevor Price on that stunt, he gets free, and he's the guy that takes Bobby Hoying to the ground. That's a tough thing where you have to zone those stunts, you know, where they cross, where Neil Smith, the outside guy, he goes inside, and the tackle, who's the inside guy, crosses and go to the outside. The guy that came free was Trevor Price, the outside guy.
Rodney Peete will loosen. Hoying apparently will stay in for a moment. Now he's coming out. He's being helped out, and Peete will loosen up on the sideline.
Well, they're going to have to punt, so they're going to have a time to check out Bobby Hoying anyway while their defense goes in and tries again to stop this Denver Bronco juggernaut, huh?
Wow. Denver 14, Philadelphia nothing. Hutton back to punt. Gordon was the deep back. Ball bouncing around. The Eagles down it just inside the Denver 30. Bobby Hoying shaken up on the last play. Back at Mile High Stadium in Denver. Hoying was stunned. The Eagle quarterback was told he'll be back the next time the Eagles get the ball. Davis just came out.
Yeah, I think you have to watch out for some kind of trick play because of that, because Terrell Davis was in the huddle on first down. They just took him out.
Von Hebron, who replaced him, is in motion. And Brister back to throw it. Brister will not be back to throw it. And Brister hit hard by James Darling, who came off the corner untouched.
You know, we talk about the first 15 plays and how Mike Shanahan scripts those things. Look what they were and how he mixes them up. He had 6 runs and he had 9 passes, but I think here's the big thing. Out of 15 plays, he had 13 different formations. So, in fact, it was Ray Rhodes says what Mike Shanahan does, he uses those first 15 plays to surf. He said he's just surfing to see what you're going to do, and he hoped to get 2 or 3 touchdowns. He did get 2.
Davis off to the races again, and he just pulls away from people. You can almost see him relax as Davis is finally pushed out of bounds by Al Harris. He is really something.
I think it was good to rest him on that first down. And you see, any time that a running back makes a long run, a wide receiver is going to make a block. Rod Smith made the block that sprung him. But you see how he goes again, and then he relaxes, and then he goes? Watch Rod Smith. He's number 8, and he's going to be right here. Now watch the block that he gets down there. Mike Shanahan says the offensive line can get you 5 or 6 yards. He said the wide receivers will get you the rest.
57 yards. Davis gets the rest, and that was Derek Lavelle with the carry.
When Mike Shanahan was saying that, you know, he's a passing coach, and he's one of those guys would call a pass on every down, but that you always have to remind yourself. And he said he's always keeping track of how many carries Terrell Davis has. In fact, he says he tries to get him between 20 to 25 carries per game. With a guy like that, to be honest with you, I don't know how you could forget him.
Over 100 yards in the first quarter.
You'd have to be on one of those rocks out there we saw.
Brister, pass complete to Rod Smith. First down, Denver, inside the 10 of Philadelphia.
Yeah, this is the thing about this team, that they're so unselfish. You know, it's not one guy. It's not all about Shannon Sharp. It's not Ed McCaffrey. It's Rod Smith. I mean, one time we see Rod Smith block, and then we see him make a move out here and catch a ball, and they do a great job of not only mixing up pass and run, but when they pass, spreading the ball around to different receivers.
That's a perfect throw by Brister.
Yeah, Brister can do that.
Yes,
I mean, Brister does have an arm, and he can throw it.
This is a Denver timeout, so they'll have 2 left. If that's a mistake, that's the first one they've made, that timeout. 4:22 left in the first quarter at Mile High Stadium. That Denver offense, well-oiled, in sync.
Well, you can see that they've been down in this situation, goal to go. That means inside the 10, 8 times this year, and they've scored a touchdown every time. And all good teams do that. And usually to do that, you have to have a good running back.
Well, they have one.
Remember when the Dallas Cowboys were doing that when Emmitt Smith, Terrell Davis is now what Emmitt Smith used to be.
Brister under pressure. Throws it away. James Willis put the pressure on.
One thing the Eagles are doing, there's Emmett Thomas, the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're doing a good job of getting a linebacker free.
Yep.
That time it was Willis. We had a couple plays before where James Darling got in there and hit Brister. William Thomas has been in there, so he does have a scheme that can free up a linebacker on passing down.
Now if he can design one to stop Terrell Davis,
that's where he's lacking.
Sharp, touchdown from Brister. A strike from Brister.
Hey, that ball doesn't stay in the air very long when Bubby Brister throws it. I mean, that was Sterling Sharp coming out here to the left. He was on Brian Dawkins, a free safety. Here we'll see Sterling Sharp right here. Dawkins is number 20. He doesn't run a very good pattern. He just kind of runs a banana out, and Bubby Brister, he just throws it right in there. Sterling Sharp had pretty good position on Brian Dawkins, but that wasn't any kind of big move or anything that he made. That was way too easy.
Extra point is good by Jason Elam. Is 3 for 3. And the Broncos lead Philadelphia 21-0 in the first quarter. King of the Hill reveals a shocking secret. Then Sue takes road rage to a new level on Costello. followed by Guinness World Records Prime Time. It's a night of all new episodes Tuesday, starting at 8, 7 Central, here on Fox. The Broncos kick off to the Eagle. This is Allen Rossum. Rossum looking for room. Ball's loose. Flag on the play.
There's all kinds of stuff going on down there. The Broncos came out with the ball. The Broncos have the football, but as you say, there is a flag.
If it's against Philadelphia, and it looks like it's holding against Philadelphia, obviously they will turn the penalty down.
During the return, holding by the return team number 58. That penalty is declined. First down.
Ike Reese guilty of holding.
See, right there, there's the tackle. That's a perfect tackle, because you not only put your head on the ball. That was Derek Lavelle. You not only put your head on the ball, and that knocked the ball out, but you wrap the guy up at the same time.
And you come from behind him.
Right, and then
they pass.
And then that's why when you get out in front, you always want to put the ball in front of you so that can't happen to you. Derek Lavelle, remember him, the old San Francisco 49er. Mike Shanahan brought him here.
Brister for McCaffrey. Incomplete. Vincent on the coverage. McCaffrey pulled Vincent down at the end of this.
Well, that's going from offense to defense. McCaffrey was on offense, and then he sees that Troy Vincent has excellent position, so he went to defense, and he just brought Troy Vincent down so he couldn't get the interception. Like Bubby Brister, because Ed McCaffrey is so tall, he's a 6'5" guy. I think he was just trying to throw him one of those jump ball things at the back of the end zone.
McCaffrey's really remarkable. Here's Brister, Davis. Davis to the 20. That might be his shortest run of the day.
Yeah, you see how he's always looking for that cutback?
Yeah.
Remember where he started early in the game, and he started to the right, and he took a bounce out for a touchdown. Now, once he's established that he can go to the outside, he thinks that widens him out, and now he's always starting to the right, looking for the cutback to the left, starting to the left, looking for the cutback to the right.
We were talking about McCaffrey a moment ago. People were saying he's too slow. He's not big enough. He's skinny. But now they've changed that tune.
I know, and now they're putting their best defender, matching him up against Ed McCaffrey.
Yeah, right.
He's become the big guy in this offense.
Here's Brister. Smith. It's hard to say who's the big guy in this offense.
Well, I mean, that's why it's such a good offense, because there isn't. I mean, Ed McCaffrey has caught more passes than any of the guys. A year ago, it was this guy right here, Rod Smith. And then they started doing stuff to Rod Smith, doubling him, zoning to him. So they started throwing to McCaffrey. Now they're doing it to McCaffrey. So Rod Smith is going to, again, get his catches. And then you have to say you got Rod Smith, you have McCaffrey, then you still have Shannon Sharp, who just scored a touchdown. And then maybe the best thing of all is Terrell Davis running the ball.
First down. Fake to Davis. Wide open is Shannon Sharp. Inside the 5, about the 4.
You're right. One of the things, just in talking to Bubby Brister yesterday and the players about, everyone likes him.
Yeah.
I think that he brings something to the team. Here's Shannon Sharp out here. He's a tight end, normally lined up next to the tackle, but they played him out wide, and you see that big cushion Troy Vincent gave him. I mean, he had to do that. I mean, if they cover like that, they could do that all day.
One of the things Brister brings is a good arm. He can throw it.
Brings that Louisiana arm.
Yeah. Davis to about the 1.
That arm that Terry Bradshaw always talks about. I think they're kind of from the same area.
They are. They are.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of quarterbacks from that area.
Oh my. Yeah.
Something in the water there in Louisiana that puts that juice in those arms.
Bert Jones, Joe Ferguson.
Yeah. Well, that's awfully close, but it's where the ball is when the knee goes down.
Did you expect Davis or Griffith?
Davis.
I don't know if he got in or not. Yes, he did. The extra point team is trotting on the field. I guess he did.
Well, they've been down with goal to go 10 times this year. They've got 10 touchdowns, and like I said, the thing that will usually get that for you is a good running back, but the other thing I forgot to mention is a good offensive line. Because here's where you have to get it. You have to control this area. You have to get the block. Your fullback has to be a good lead blocker, and you have to get everyone going back or down.
Elam for the extra point. It is good. You know, you're talking about Mike Shanahan and how aggressive he is with his play calling philosophy, how he said to the defense, challenged the defense. But with all that, and with all that goes on, and all the suspicions and cover-ups and things that go on around the NFL, he's very, very open, very frank with what he tells you. Yeah. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our blitz packet. Here's this. Here's this.
Yeah, I asked him about a blitz yesterday, and he brought out his defensive game plan and showed us the blitzes that they were going to use and how they did it. He had his offensive play calling sheet sitting right out there. He does an interesting thing, though, that I don't know that anyone else does. He tapes every meeting that they have. Then he can sit in his office. Remember the last time we walked in there? And they have an offensive meeting, a defensive meeting, and a special teams meeting. And he can monitor all those meetings. And they tape each one of the meetings. Every time they present a play, every time they have a meeting, that meeting is taped and kept for the next year.
And if a player has a question or something to offer, he's got that on tape as well.
Right, or if a player is sick and misses a meeting or something, they can give him the tape of that meeting so he can see what's going on. I don't know that there's many more organized people than Mike Shanahan. Even that thing he's looking at, that's the Polaroids, the still images. He has them in a binder. Most guys have them flopping around in their pockets or something. He has them put in a binder.
Elam's kickoff sails to the back of the end zone. Corey Walker.
Look at this. You know, we can say Bubby Brister in no way is John Elway. I mean, John Elway is a one of a kind, but when they put Bubby Brister in, you look under Elway for quarters, they were 8.5, Brister 8.0, .76 under Elway, 87 under Brister, passing yards 597, 467, touchdowns under Elway 4, under Brister 6. I think part of that is Bubby Brister, and another part of it is a very good offensive machine.
That's the only way to describe it. And it doesn't make any difference who's driving it. Incomplete. Charlie Garner, the intended receiver.
Oh, Shannon. Short. And I was just going to say, Shannon Sharp was talking about that last week. He says you have a Porsche and you let someone else drive it, and you don't want it to come in back with any dings or doinks or any of that stuff on it. He said Brister came in and brought it back with no dings or doinks.
And he's done it again. 28 points by the Broncos in the first quarter.
You wonder why Philadelphia ever got rid of Bubby Brister. You wonder why they didn't keep him and let him quarterback this team.
That 28 is the most ever by the Broncos. That is Charlie Garner. Just a little dunk pass from Hoying. Gets the Eagles a first down with 50 seconds to go in the first quarter. 28-0 Denver.
I think this is his first pass completion of the day, and you have to get something to get started. They get Charlie Garner out there, and you know, Charlie Garner has a bad ankle, so he's just trying to get that first down and get out of bounds and save that ankle for another play.
Hoying back to throw. Flag on the play. Same pass. Different receiver intended. Kevin Turner. Incomplete, but a penalty marker down.
Bill Romanowski, the linebacker for the Broncos, was saying yesterday, if Hoying plays, he said, we just expect him to dink it and dunk it. That if Rodney Peete plays, we expect him to throw it more down the field. And Romanowski said, I don't know why Rodney Peete doesn't play. He said he'd be a lot tougher on us than Bobby Hoying, but
formation, offense, the wide receiver covered up the tight end. That penalty is declined. Second down.
What that means is that the wide receiver was on the line. So if he's on the line, then the next man inside him has to be off the line or he's ineligible. So he gets up on the line and the tight end is on that same side, then the tight end becomes ineligible. So then when he goes out, that's an ineligible receiver.
Then they use that term covered, as you just heard. Here's Hoying back to throw. Here comes the blitz. Pass is almost intercepted. Is intercepted by Ray Crockett. Crockett is down. The ball is down, the officials are saying. That the ball hit the ground.
Think of all the guys on this defense that has really impressed this Broncos staff. It's been Ray Crockett. He's probably been the most consistent of the defensive players. And you're going to see him here. He's just playing a zone, just backing off, and that ball was thrown ugly. I mean, that ball was thrown on a one hop. There was no one there, and I'll tell you, it's tough to play quarterback in this league. And it's really tough when you're playing quarterback in this league on the road. Then be quarterback in this league on the road down 28-0.
And be playing at Mile High Stadium.
And it's still the first quarter.
Here comes the blitz. Hoying gets it out to Jeff Graham for about a 6-yard pickup, shy of the first down. That's probably the last play of the first quarter. 28-0. The Broncos lead. That is the end of the first quarter with the score Denver Broncos 28, Philadelphia Eagles nothing. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. 28-0, Denver over Philadelphia. As we begin the second quarter, the Eagles waited so Hutton could punt with the wind. The Broncos have a chance. Darian Gordon out of bounds at about the 29-yard line, where Denver will take over. John Elway out with a bad back. The Broncos lead 28-0. They have the ball, first and 10. Bubby Brister is the quarterback. He's been very effective. Davis swings over the left side and picks up a couple. Injuries, of course, John Elway with a bad back came out, dressed out, couldn't go, so he is out with the injured back, didn't start. James Willis for the Eagles had bruised ribs. He's come back. He's been to the locker room twice. Bobby Hoying was hit in the head. He's returned. And Alan Rossum has a concussion. His return is questionable. McCaffrey in motion. Brister back to throw it. Sharp. 46. And right now, for an NFL update, let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Ed and John show you the struggles of Danny Cannell continuing. Throws behind Tiki Barber, picked off by Charles Mincy. 21 yards of pay dirt. Tampa Bay on top in the second by 10. Back to Pat Summerall and John Madden.
We're back at Mile High Stadium, and the problems do not exist for the Denver Broncos. If they lead the Eagles, there's Rossum headed for the locker room. Here's Brister back to throw it. Outside to Sharp. Not much.
You know, sometimes you watch this Denver offense, and you kind of get the feeling that they're just a bunch of guys playing in the park or something. I mean, Bobby Brister kind of goes back and he throws it to Sharp, throws it to McCaffrey, throws it to the back, and then he comes and throws one to Rod Smith, and then he hands it to Terrell Davis, and I don't know. This has to be fun. What Mike Shanahan is doing right now, playing at home, 28-0 lead, and everything you call is working.
Davis. Flag on the play. Davis was averaging, before this drive started, 12 yards a carry. It's better than that now. If this is not called back, it is. Holding.
This is really the first time he's been stopped. Yep. It's been by a holding penalty. I mean, they just get those holes in there. We talk about the onside zone and the offside cutting, and that combination.
Offense, number 69. 10 yards, remain second down.
On Schlereth.
It's Mark Schlereth, the guy that, has been around for 10 years. Remember with the Washington Redskins and one of the Hawks, and he is a big, strong guy, and he has awfully strong arms and hands. And sometimes he puts those hands on you, and those hands of his are like clamps. And I guess the umpire saw the clamp that last play.
He's had 21 operations.
And you know what his nickname is? Stinky.
Yeah.
And it kind of all goes together. A guard, the offensive line of the Broncos, don't talk to the media, 21 operations. You're from Alaska, played in Idaho, and your nickname's Stinky.
Not supposed to be stinky if you're from Alaska.
Oh, you could be.
You could be, I guess. Flag on the play.
What?
But no matter what the Broncos have come up with, whether it's run or pass, right or left, they've gashed this Philadelphia Eagle defense.
And this is an Eagle defense timeout. So both teams have 2 left in the first half. At Summerall, John Madden back at Mile High Stadium.
You wonder why the Eagles called timeout that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They only had 10 guys, no one out here, so they had to call the timeout. And when you're 0-4 and when you're getting beaten 28-0 and it's still the first half, you have this kind of look and things like that happen to you.
And you only have 10 guys on the field, you better call a timeout.
Yeah, but it's just one of these things. I mean, obviously the Bronco offense is so much better than the Eagle defense. They've had their way with them in anything they've tried to do. And at some point, frustration just sets in. They got 11 men up in the line of scrimmage.
Everybody's coming. Brister gets rid of it. Barely. Everybody on the line of scrimmage.
Brister had to get rid of it. See, here's the whole group. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Or 10, I guess. But anyway,
you missed one.
There is 11. I missed the guy because here's Zordich. He's up there and he just comes free. He's a strong safety. He was lined up as a linebacker, and we just saw a shot of Emmett Thomas, the defensive coordinator, and I think he just got to a point that, look, I've had enough of this stuff. Let's just get up there and blitz him. Now he's gone the other way, just a 3-man line.
And Brister fires, has it batted down. And for the first time today, the Broncos will have to punt.
Now you see, he gave him the combination. First of all, the blitz, then he comes back with just a 3-man rush. And that's what you try and do. You just try and have a controlled 3-man rush because you know you have 8 men covered. And then you just watch the quarterback, and then when he goes to throw it, you just get your hand up.
Now it's Brandon Whiting that knocked it down. Freddie Solomon back deep. Ruin is averaging just under 50 yards a kick. Leads the league. This is another good kick. Solomon. Flag on the play. Illegal block in the back. I'm sure Al Harris.
Those are the things you can just see. We're talking about frustration and the Eagles, and you finally stop them. You get something going, and then boom, there's the flag against you again.
Illegal block on the back by the return team, number 31. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
31 is Al Harris. And here comes the block.
Al Harris is right here, and again, that's the old deal. I mean, if you're the kicker, you're gonna be running down there watching, admiring your work. You better put your head on a swivel.
I learned that lesson. 28-0, 12:02 left in the second quarter at Mile High Stadium in Denver. Broncos dominating. Eagles ball at their own 8. And Bobby Hoying is quarterback all the way for Philadelphia. Charlie Garner's the deep back. Hoying. All right, now let's go down to the sideline and Don Tollefson.
Hey, Pat and John, it's been very interesting to watch John Elway's demeanor. A lot of times when a starting quarterback is injured, he does a lot of pseudo-coaching. Mostly he's just been congratulating Bubby Brister, going over to him, telling him what a great job he's doing, obviously, of running this offense. You talked about Bubby Brister being let go by the Eagles after 2 years there, one of them very successfully. He was embittered by a pay cut. He has something to prove today. Back to you, Pat.
All right, Don. Garner ducks outside the 10.
He was talking about John Elway on the sideline, and when we talked to John Elway yesterday, you could just see the pain in the eyes as he was sitting in that chair, and he finally said, he said, it really hurts me to sit. He said, I either have to stand up or lie down. He said, with this back, he said, I can't sit. So I think we see him up there in the sideline standing up most of the time because it hurts him to sit down.
Third down, Eagles. Oying back to throw it. Dumps it outside to Kevin Turner.
You
won't get it.
No, you got to be aggressive. I mean, it's tough to say, but you can't throw that dink and dunk stuff. You see, the interesting thing the Eagles were doing is the offensive line was holding hands. They're using that silent count. And so they were down there, especially in that end zone on third down. It gets real tough here, but I think maybe 28-0. It's not that tough, but the Eagles' offensive line on that last play was holding hands.
Hutton standing back in his own end zone. Again, a short kick. Gordon lets it bounce at the 45. Denver has the ball at the Philadelphia 44-yard line, leading 28-0. Neil Smith with a colorful Band-Aid across his nose.
Yeah, he paints those himself.
Yeah.
He, years ago, he said against Seattle, he broke his nose, and he had to wear a thing on his nose, a Band-Aid. He said he played well, then the nose got better, but he was afraid to take the Band-Aid off because he may not play as well.
Brister back to throw, incomplete. Intended for Sharp. Broken up by Brian Dawkins, I believe. Yeah,
Brian Dawkins was right there. That was one of the few bad passes that Bubby Brister has thrown today. Brian Dawkins was running underneath Shannon Sharp, and I don't know if Bubby Brister didn't see it or everything had been going so well for him today that he's getting to the thing where he can throw anything, anywhere, anytime he wants.
Second and 10. That's Davis out of the pack. Zordich and Dawkins on the stop.
These are the type of things that Terrell Davis has done today. There's the first one that he took to the outside.
Here's the long run.
Here's the next one, and again he takes the outside. He gets a good block by Rod Smith, and just he is so fast with pads on is amazing. And then to show that he can do it all short yardage and goal line, he just pounds it in.
And he just picked up another first down. Here's again. And this time at the line of scrimmage by Greg Jefferson.
Another guy that doesn't get a lot of mention is Howard Griffith, his blocking fullback. But I've always put those blocking fullbacks in with the offensive line. Remember when Emmitt Smith was doing so well, and it was Moose Johnston was one of the best. And Howard Griffith is that guy for Terrell Davis. He's the guy that's always making that block, that lead block, and he's like that extra guard, like the third guard in this offense, more than a running back.
There's great communication, too, between those two. McCaffrey in motion. Brister to throw it. Pump fake. Across the middle. Shannon Sharp. Close to a first down, but a little bit shy.
I think Brister does think that he can get the ball anywhere that he wants to. James Willis was right there. And he just threw that ball sharp, and it went right by Willis because this is pretty good coverage. Sometimes these guys haven't been covered. On this one, he pumps to the outside. He's looking. Now, really, he's coming back here to Shannon Sharp as his third receiver. You just see what he's looking. He's looking to the right. He pumps to the right. He's looking to the right again. Then he comes back in the middle to Sharp, and James Willis had good coverage. He was right there.
Reverse to Rod Smith is open. Smith run down from behind by Brian Dawkins, and he saved the touchdown.
Heck of a play by Brian Dawkins. You know, this is one of the things that I'm sure that Ray Rhodes is looking at. I'm sure that all the Eagle people are looking at. You're down 28-0. Who's still playing hard? Well, here's one guy, Brian Dawkins, because this from up here looked like a touchdown.
Yep.
I mean, he has Tony Jones out in front of him. Brian Dawkins comes and chases this thing down. Watch, I mean, you can see right here that this is going to be a touchdown, except for right here. And Brian Dawkins just comes and he just outruns everyone and catches him from behind. Because if he got out in front, he had Tony Jones down there. He had two blockers out in front.
Smith still gets a first down. Tonight it's game 4 of the NL Division Series as the Padres will be looking to close out the series and move on to the NLCS. While the Astros try to force a pivotal game 5 and keep their postseason hopes alive. Find out tonight following football at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on Fox. There the pitchers, Randy Johnson, the big unit for Houston. Sterling Hitchcock making his first career postseason start. And I would think that the big unit in twilight might make the ball almost disappear.
Let me tell you, I'm from Pleasanton, California.
Yeah,
Randy Johnson's from Livermore, California, which is like 5 miles down the road. Randy Johnson is tough in any kind of light, believe me, and especially if you're a left-hander.
Here's Davis looking for some running room and finding a little.
In fact, my son Mike was a baseball player, and he was playing for Foothill High School against Randy Johnson in high school.
And what did he say about him?
He made him quit. he said he can't hit. He said he's a left-handed hitter, but he didn't know Randy Johnson was going to be Randy Johnson. He thought every pitcher was like Randy Johnson. He couldn't hit anymore. So after his junior year, he played track in his senior year.
I think that was a wise decision.
Well, no,
not because he couldn't play.
Yeah, but you're not going to play Randy Johnson every game. But he didn't know that at the time. Oh, John got jumping off sides and everything. Fire drill.
Randy Johnson play basketball?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I knew him as baseball.
Yeah.
Start, offense number 74, 5 yards, second down.
Talking about Randy Johnson, the big unit throwing fastballs in high school. You know, we were talking. I was at a baseball game the other night. So
I saw you.
The gun. I'm doing the radar, and they're throwing like 93 miles an hour. John Elway, when he was in high school, this is a true story. He was gunned at 94. He threw a 94 mile an hour fastball. So I'm trying to see how that relates to football. I want to get a gun to see how hard they throw the football.
Davis runs hard to about the 12. How fast do you think?
Well, I have some experience on the gun, so I got one of Bubby Brister's throws today. I had it 82.
Did you?
Not quite as fast as the baseball.
I didn't. That must have been when I was looking the other way. I didn't see the gun.
No, just from experience. I haven't done the gun. Now I can just tell with my raw eyes.
Oh.
And but the fastest guy that I've timed so far is Brett Favre. And Brett Favre throws harder than anyone.
How fast?
I had him 93.
That's fast. Pass is picked off from Brister to William Thomas, and William Thomas gets the Eagles out of the hole.
Bobby Brister tried to throw that one right through there because William Thomas was over there. He was just playing in his zone. He was just sitting there, and you're just going to see 51 here. William Thomas, he's just going to come straight back in here. Bobby Brister, I think, was either trying to throw it through him or didn't see him.
That needed a couple more miles per hour to get through those hands.
No. He had good MPHs on it. The only thing is he couldn't throw it through. But then you see what happened? The guy that's always going to be the first guy there, especially if he's a backup quarterback, is going to be the guy that threw it. Now watch Bobby Brister. After he throws that ball, he knows, someone has to tackle this guy. Watch Bobby Brister go get him. That's not bad.
No, the MPHs were there, but not the rest of it. The RPMs or whatever. Kevin Turner gets the carry. The Eagles keep the Broncos out of the end zone. 28-0.
I know what everyone's going to be thinking now, that the Eagles should have started Rodney Peete, and they're going to have that quarterback controversy and all those things. And I think what the Eagles knew is that Rodney Peete had been a starter for them before, and that he wasn't the answer. He's a good backup for them. And they know that he's not the answer as a starter week after week. They don't know about Bobby Hoying, and they have to find out, and I think they are finding out.
Hoying ducks under the rush, tucks it under, and is hit hard. A real collision with Glenn Cadrez.
And that's what a quarterback learns. You never, ever give a square shot to a linebacker. I mean, you either have to turn or you have to slide, but you never take them on square. And those linebackers, Cadrez, when he gets a shot like this, he can't believe that he's getting it. Where a quarterback puts his head down and squares into a defensive guy, you never, ever do that if you want to continue playing this league.
3rd and 10. Hoying has his man open. Freddie Solomon will get an Eagle first down.
We were talking about scripting and what Denver did. Here's what Philadelphia did. Of course, playing from behind changed the script too. But you see that they ran the ball 4 times and passed the ball 11 times, and whether they ran it or passed it, it's been tough for them.
They get a first down at their own 46. Hoying hands to Staley. Staley gets a yard. Trevor Price took him down.
One of the bright spots of this Eagle team, I think, has generally been the offensive line, and specifically this big tackle, Trey Thomas. I've really been impressed with him, watching him on film. And he's a big guy, he's 350 pounds, but he has great feet. Look at him, he's 6'7", 350 pounds out of Florida State. And because he went to Florida State, he does have a pretty good handle on pass protection. He's not a great run blocker yet,
but he will be.
I only remember being beaten once today. That was when Hasselbeck beat him on a pass run.
Staley again, looking for room and not finding much, maybe a couple of yards.
And that play there, he wasn't quick enough. Tanavasa just got inside him and just beat him to the gap and got all the way down. You can't, even though you're running away, you learn this. Watch it. If this is your guy, you have to cut him and stop him so that he can't come in here and make this play. You see Tanavasa gets the inside. You see Thomas doesn't stop him, and watch what happened. See who's down there to make the play right there?
And you can't cut him like that. You got to throw at him.
No, and you have to be quicker. I mean, you have to drop before he does. This is where he's pretty good, right here as a pass protector.
Here's Hoying, incomplete. And the Eagles have to punt.
Look, we got a good pass protector. Now all we need is a passer, huh? Because this is good pass protection. You watch here. See how they're holding hands? Because when the guard lets go, that means the ball is snapped. And you see the feet that he has? He always has his feet there. He's always square. And he's at 350 pounds. If you keep 350 pounds square, it is tough to get around that.
Darian Gordon back deep to field Tommy Hutton's punt. And this again is not one of his best. Takes an Eagles bounce, however, and goes down and down at about the 1-yard line, maybe even inside the 1. Walker. Next week on Fox NFL Sunday, the Carolina Panthers will head to Dallas to take on Michael Irvin and the Cowboys, plus other regional action. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. So check your local listing.
You know, there was some talk that Troy Aikman was going to try and get back for that game next week.
That was his announced intention. but I don't think so.
Well, you know, I heard that last week he went out and he was just trying to take a snap.
Yeah.
And the jar of the snap bothered his collarbone, so I don't know that he may not be longer than a week away.
I think with the way Jason Garrett's performing, he probably will be longer than a week. Here's Davis again, up near the 10.
And then you wonder how long John Elway is going to be away. You know, once you get that back, I mean, the hamstring was one thing, and you know, with rest and so on, that's going to be okay. I think with the back, you really don't know, and I think that's something like you were saying, and he told you that he wants to get this checked. He wants to find out what it is.
I got to find out what's wrong, is what he said.
Remember, Troy Aikman had that. He had a hamstring, and then he had a back, and he had back surgery.
2 minutes left to play in the first half. We get the 2-minute warning with Denver leading 28-0 over Philadelphia.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Miller Lite, an official sponsor of the NFL and Super Bowl 33.
2 minutes left in the first half. Denver 28, Philadelphia nothing. Fairly ominous clouds moving in. Bill Romanowski being stretched over on the sideline as the Denver offensive unit will give it another go. Brister gives to Davis. And Davis is taken down.
You know what Terrell Davis was in high school? He was telling us yesterday he was a fullback and he was a nose tackle. And I think that's a pretty good combination, because when you get a guy that comes from that, he's going to be a good blocker, and he's going to understand pass protection. He's going to be a tough guy. I remember I had Clarence Davis, and he was my running back, who was a great running back. I mean, maybe the best blocking running back that ever played, you know, as a blocker. And he was a guard in high school. He was a guard in high school and a shot putter in track. And I thought, now, if you can go from a guard in high school and a shot putter in track to be a halfback in the pros, you're going to be a good blocker. And Terrell Davis is a lot like that.
Coming up on the Visa halftime report, JB and Terry will have scores and highlights from around the league. And our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all coming up on the Visa halftime report.
I wonder if we'll see the guy in the barrel. You know, there's, you know, the guy with the bag over his head, and then there's a guy that walks around here a lot over the years that just dresses in an orange barrel.
That's a Denver guy.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get a bigger barrel, I think.
It's the same thing. I mean, the question has always been over the years is, what does that man have under that barrel?
That's a question I don't care to find out about.
I don't think anyone does, but it's still a question, and has remained and will remain a question.
Well, there's some stuff overflowing in top that it didn't used to be overflowing.
Well, you have compilations up in there, and that's what, you know, does happen.
The thing that strikes me is those suspenders are a little bit wider than they used to be. Well, what goes through your mind?
Well, he thinks he's looking good. He's cool. He's trying to be cool. Well, he doesn't know he's on television, I think. If he knew he was on television, I'll guarantee you, I don't know the guy, but he'd have some kind of act to put on.
Oh, he'd suck it up, I know. Orange boots, orange barrel. Just your regular costume to go to the game. Bruins kick is blocked, and it goes out of the end zone, and that'll be a safety. William Thomas came flying in and knocked that ball out of the end zone.
You know, that's the second time that they've done that they've gotten awfully close. You're going to see Thomas. He started to the outside, and then he come in the inside. They were very close coming from the other side on an earlier punt. They've been going after these punts, and this one here, Thomas does it perfectly.
Yeah.
He gets right there where he's going to get that. And you see, he times it, he comes right up the middle. Ruin goes to kick, and he's kicking it right into William Thomas. Now, had the Eagles been able to get that ball before it went out of the end zone, that would have been a touchdown instead of a 2-point.
28-2. Safety ruled, 2 points awarded to the defensive team. And And a free kick now will occur from the 20-yard line.
So that's the thing. The Eagles will get the ball again, and they'll get it in good field position. Now, what you do on this is you have your kickoff team along with your punter. So you have your kickoff team, they're the cover team, and your punter punt. Then on the return, you have your kickoff return team with your punt returner as a deep guy. See, so this here is a kickoff, and the punter will kick the ball. This is the kickoff return with your punt returner back here.
Because he's used to handling punts. Ruin will have a free kick. Can't cross the 20, but he'll punt it. And this one is off the side of his foot and out of bounds. Don't forget, again, coming up on Fox Baseball, if Houston wins tonight's game, by the way, tonight game 4, and if Houston wins that game, game 5 will be on Fox Tuesday night at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Tonight's starters, again, a reminder, Randy Johnson and Sterling Hitchcock. San Diego's trying to make it to the NLCS for only the second time ever. Houston trying to avoid losing in a division series for the second consecutive year. So the Eagles, because that punt went out of bounds, will start from midfield. They treat it as if it were a kickoff after it bounced out of bounds, and Bobby Hoying incomplete and intercepted. And off to the races is Darius Johnson. Darius Johnson. Did they turn this thing around in a hurry? Out of bounds at the Philadelphia 13.
Yeah, we were talking about what Bill Romanowski said, and with Bobby Hoying, all he's going to do is dink and dunk. So the Denver Bronco defense, even though they were in a nickel defense, they're playing for the dink and dunk. So they get it right here. You see, they're just sitting there waiting for it. Get a heck of a hit. Darius Johnson is just sitting back there as a nickel back. See, they got a stunt going up in front. You see, just as the ball gets there, you see he gets that hit from Cadrez. The ball bounces out, and Darius Johnson gets it. But those linebackers are sitting in there just playing that short stuff. They're not dropping. There's no reason to drop back 10 and 15 yards. They're sitting there at 5 yards playing the dink and the dunk. At some point, you have to be aggressive and get the ball up the field.
Davis comes in motion. Brister incomplete. Going back to baseball again, let me correct myself. If Houston wins tonight, game 5 will be here on Fox on Monday night. I said Tuesday night. It'll be Monday night at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. So forgive me.
Well, at least in his first half, Philadelphia did get 2 points.
2 points. Then they get a free kick and a safety, get the ball at midfield, and all of a sudden it's Denver again.
Great field position, and they haven't done anything aggressively on offense.
McCaffrey, touchdown. McCaffrey down in the end zone after scoring. Now he's up.
He has to get up to give a salute. Watch, he will give a salute. You see, McCaffrey's out here, and he's just going to come underneath and just sit right there. See, come under control and sit. They drive the defense deep with the corner. He is coming under, and he's just sitting and waiting there, and Bubby Brister sees him. Again, good pass protection. You see, Bubby Brister has time to wait and look, and then he just zips that thing in there.
Elam's extra point is good. 35-2.
Get it here, and Ed McCaffrey knows that, once he gets that ball, the first thing you have to do is put it away and protect it. The next thing is get it into the end zone.
Yeah, so you can see him looking to see that he was in the end zone. Let's see what happens.
he knew he was in the end zone when he planted his head in the end zone.
Yep.
He just drove his head right into the ground. That's what they're checking his neck. I mean, he went to dive and he dove head first. The first thing that hit him was the back of his head. The first thing that he hit was the back of his head.
35-2, 1:10 left to play in the first half.
Thunder's getting tired. I mean, if they keep scoring like this, they're going to have to give Thunder an IV. Get them some fluids.
It's nice and cool, however.
Yeah, but they're going to dehydrate Thunder. You can do that. They did that. Kansas City had one called War Paint. Kansas City beat the heck out of us one day. We darn near killed War Paint. Philadelphia's close to getting Thunder here in this first half.
He touched the inline.
He didn't come out, though.
He didn't come out.
Mike Carey was right there watching the ball, and the ball has to come all the way out, and it didn't come out.
That's Jason Elam, the kicker, who's apparently injured over on the sideline.
But he got it on the kick.
Yeah.
Watch that. He kicked and he grabbed the back of his knee right away.
Yep.
I wonder if that's not one of those things like you do in golf sometimes when you hit down with the club and it goes up your wrist. Does that happen? Do you hit down on that?
No, you shouldn't. Hoying. First down yardage to Irving Fryer.
And that's the first pass that Irving Fryer has caught. And I think that, again, the Eagles are really overmatched here, but still your thinking has to be more aggressive. I mean, you have to at least try and get the ball out to Irving Fryer.
Screen pass. Intended for Deuce Staley. Hoying had to hurry it out of there.
Yeah, you can't really throw a screen pass until you've established that you can pass the ball down the field because, like I said, they're sitting on your dink and dunk. There's Dana Bible, the offensive coordinator, the new offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, John Gruden was the offensive coordinator, and he's now the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. But at some point, like I said, they have to get aggressive against this defense. At least try to be aggressive against it.
Right now, the defense is aggressive. And Neil Smith is among those. He goes into his familiar baseball home run swing.
Bill Romanowski on that play, Pat, just hurt himself. He had a pulled groin, and then he just took himself out on that play. Neil Smith, we're going to see him. He's just going to come right here, and he makes a good pass rush move. He just goes right by it.
A flag back by Hoying, and that's probably going to be roughing the passer. He rushed the pass. Maybe it's holding.
Holding. Offense number 72. That penalty is declined. Fourth down.
That's a rookie, Trey Thomas. The guy that was beating the play before that was on Richard Cooper. He was the guy that Neil Smith beat. And sometimes a guy gets beat like that on Neil Smith, and he goes back and holds the next play. But it wasn't Richard Cooper. It was over on the other side. It was against Trey Thomas.
Tommy Hutton, his sixth punt of the afternoon coming up. The Broncos came after that one. Hutton gets it out to Gordon. And Darian Gordon gets a couple of blocks and then slides at the 42. Coming up again on the Visa halftime report, JB and Terry will have scores and highlights from around the league, and our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all coming up on the Visa halftime report.
Well, knowing Mike Shanahan, I mean, it scores 35-2, but knowing Mike Shanahan, this isn't going to be a kneel down.
No.
We see Jason Elam, his kicker, going in, and he's going to take a shot.
Smith also went into the locker room. aggressive coach, Shanahan. Very aggressive runner is Davis. Elam came back out. Now he's turned around and gone back in, because that's the end of the first half with the score. The Denver Broncos 35, the Eagles 2. Fox NFL Sunday will continue with JB and Terry and the Visa halftime report after these messages and a word from your local Fox station.
Welcome to the Visa Halftime Report. Visa, the preferred card of the NFL. It's everywhere you want to be.
As we welcome you to the Visa halftime along with the Blonde Bomber, I'm James Brown. Too bad there's no mercy rule in effect. Boy, Brister in for Elway.
Elway says, Jay, go out and throw yourself about 3 touchdown passes at you. Hand it off to Terrell Davis, who, by the way, goes 20 yards on this touchdown run. Denver up by 7. Then Brister out of the shotgun. He's back out of Northeast Louisiana. Fires over to the right. Smith crossing around 8-yard touchdown. Now Denver up by 14. Then Brister strikes again this time. Shannon Sharp, corner of the end zone, 9-yard touchdown pass. Terrell Davis, 168 yards rushing in the first half is more than you see in Tampa Bay and the New York Giants combined running and passing, JB.
Danny Kanell and the Giants in Tampa Bay. What would it be like? TV will tell you.
Well, yeah, I'm going to tell you a lot today. Been a great day for me. Danny Kanell out of the shotgun. He had about as good a day as I've had, folks. Over the middle. Sure, why not throw an interception? Throw it to Charles Mincy. He returns it for a touchdown for Tampa Bay. They're up by 7. Buccaneers intercept another one. 3 interceptions on the year. The Giants are there. Tampa Bay is there. 10-0.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't either.
Good day. The Raiders have had a good day taking your cue, 23-14.
Cowboys 31-10 over the Redskins, 224 yards rushing for the Cowboys.
San Francisco tied an NFL record with 22 penalties, dropping 1 to Buffalo today.
The Lions, the Bears, Kramer, big day for him, 6 touchdown passes in the last 2 games, 31-27 over, you got it, Detroit.
Falcons, 3 touchdowns in 48 seconds, highlighted today, 51-23 over the Panthers.
Miami, no offense. The Jets, not much more, 20-9.
A lot of offense and some pretty good D, believe it or not, in this game here. Adam Vinatieri, 27-yard field goal with 3 seconds left. New England over your Saints.
The Colts, the Chargers, 2 rookie quarterbacks, Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning. Colts get their first win.
All right, so when we come back, Mr. Clutch, known as Terry Bradshaw otherwise, some of you will go to local news. Others will come back to hear Mr. Clutch deliver the highlights on that outstanding upset by the Bills over San Francisco. That after this. He's a halftime report along with the Blonde Bomber Terry Bradshaw. I'm James Brown. Every unbeaten team that played early lost today, including San Francisco that lost to Rob Johnson and the Bills.
He hits Quinn early on this fade route, 5-yarder. Buffalo surprisingly up 17-0. And Bruce Smith, big day, harassed Steve Young all day long, comes around, knocks the ball loose. Marcellus Wiley recovers. This leads to a field goal, and Buffalo's up 20-0. Go on to survive this game, 26-21 over the 49ers.
Bill Parcells' Jets held Miami to 34 total yards rushing on the ground today.
Vinny Testaverde in, dumped his ball off to Keith Byers. Byers, 588 career reception, most ever by a running back. Dolphins are up by 3, then Testaverde back. Keyshawn Johnson in the corner of the end zone. A 10-yard touchdown pass. Jets up by 4, 7-3. Marino, rough day. Sacked here by Ernie Logan. Only 153 yards total offense for the Dolphins. There you see it. Jets beat them 10-20-9.
Danny Werfel trying to keep the Saints undefeated.
It's Cleveland. Cameron Cleveland in the end zone. 1-yard touchdown pass. New England up by 3, 17-14. Werfel's pass here is picked off by Henry Thomas. How far does it go, JB?
Long.
Yeah, 24-yard touch. Interception return for a touchdown. New England up 24-14. Then Adam Vinatieri, 27-yard field goal. There you have it. New England 30, New Orleans 27.
Troy Aikman not ready to play yet, but it made no difference today.
Got the running game going. Right off the bat, though, Trent Green hits pump fakes Leslie Shepard down the sideline. 40-yard touchdown pass. It's Washington up by 7. Then play action by Jason Garrett. Down the middle to Ernie Mills of 43 yards. No safety there. Dallas 17-7 over Washington. Then second half, Chris Warren in. 6 yards out. 24-10. Dallas goes on 31-10 over Washington. 224 yards rushing for the Cowboys.
Chris Warren making a successful turn to the Washington area. Played at Robinson High School just outside of D.C. Washington 0-5 for the first time since '81. Visa halftime continues after this.
You're watching Fox NFL's.
halftime score at Mile High Stadium. Denver 35, Philadelphia 2. Each week during the second half of our games, Fox Sports will have 2 interactive questions. You call it and ask the pros. These questions are for those of you that logged on to the internet while watching our game. You can participate in these questions by logging on to foxsports.com. This week's You Call It. Which team, the Eagles or the Broncos, will have the most rushes in the second half of today's game? Join us on the internet. Log on to foxsports.com. And we wish you good luck. This week's Ask the Pros question is from Jeff Bozeman in Montana. If John Elway remains injured, could Bobby Brister lead the Broncos back to the Super Bowl?
You know, and my answer is going to be yes for 2 reasons. One, the first half we just saw 35 points. Bobby Brister threw 3 touchdowns, and the way he runs his team in the machine. And the other thing, I remember back to 1990, and Phil Simms, the New York Giants, was injured. Jeff Hostetler had to come in and take his place, and I made a statement, there's no way that a backup quarterback can lead a team to the Super Bowl. Well, lo and behold, Jeff Hostetler did, the Giants did, and they won. So I've learned never say never, so I will never say never again.
Lo and behold, I like that. We're just about ready to go with the second half now as they're lined up to kick it off. Tom Ruin, who is the punter. Remember that Jason Elam on the last kickoff, or the last kickoff, grabbed his kicking leg, went to the locker room, came back out, went back again. And now it's Ruin to kick it off. So we'll see if we can find out what happened to Jason Elam.
I wonder, yeah, he's going to kick it soccer style. I was going to say, I wonder if the backup kickoff guy would also kick it sidewinder, and obviously he is.
Not many steps, not much distance. Fielded about the 8 by Walker. Walker is taken down as the Denver Broncos special teams along with all the other teams.
You know, you said earlier that Mike Shanahan challenged his defense to play a whole game today, and you saw in the first half the Eagles only got 2 points, and you wonder after the first half, did we see great defense or poor offense? And I think it was a combination of both. I think that Denver has played well defensively, and offensively the Eagles have offered him no challenge whatsoever.
Still Bobby Hoying at quarterback for Philadelphia. He gets it outside to Deuce Staley, who skips out of one man. Picks up about 6. That's William Thomas over on the sideline trying to focus the eyes and make sure that he knows where he is. There's Jason Elam. Strained right hamstring is the word as to what happened to Elam. There's Deuce Staley again. Deuce Staley doesn't make it back to the line of scrimmage.
You know, the other thing, Pat, I don't see Bill Romanowski out there. Remember just at the end of the half on a play, I saw him on a second down play. He came out, he took himself out, and then I don't see him out there now, nor do I see him on the sideline. And remember when we talked to him yesterday, he had a groin pull. In fact, he was icing his groin at the time, and I wonder if he re-injured that. And this is what they were doing to him. Remember during the game, they were trying to stretch him out. So I'm not sure if he aggravated that again.
Incomplete. Intended for Russell Copeland, and nothing there.
Yeah, but the Eagle offense is just totally inept, so it doesn't really make any difference. I mean, the Broncos aren't at a point where they need Bill Romanowski now, and Rodney Peete, it looks like he's smiling and laughing, and he does. I mean, and I think sometimes people misread that, like he's laughing at it, but over the years, and we've seen Rodney Peete for so many years, he's always doing that. He's always done that, and that's Rodney Peete.
Gordon. No place to go. Good coverage. That's the one place, particularly, that the Eagles have improved over last year. Special teams. They covered it well. It's that time of year when the leaves are starting to turn to the gold. Beautiful sight. Derek Lavelle has replaced Davis. Brister.
That's what we thought we were going to see more of today, is a bootleg. In fact, that was the play, remember, against the Dallas Cowboys, that John Elway was injured on a bootleg, so they kind of took the bootleg out for him, but they did put the bootleg in, and you see Bobby Brister make a fake here, then he's going to bootleg out to the left here. He's looking for the crossing guy up there, and then he waited just a little too long. At some point on a cross, the guy's always going to be open, but he was open before Bobby was ready to throw the ball.
Bill Johnson was in pursuit, and I think Bobby heard him coming. That's Lavelle.
Yeah, I wonder if Terrell Davis is not going to play anymore today. We looked at what he did in the first half, and that's kind of a full game's work. Where he ran to the left 5 times for 88 yards. He ran to the right 6 times for 42 yards, and he ran up the middle 9 times for 38 yards. So it was a pretty good mixture of left, middle, and right, and wherever Terrell Davis ran, he did pretty good.
That's a pretty good day right there in the first half.
Yeah, one of the touchdowns was up the middle, and one of the touchdowns was to the right.
Brister gets Rod Smith, and he might be out of bounds before he gets the first.
The first guy over there to argue it is Bobby Brister.
They say he was juggling it. That official says he was juggling it, and so it will not be a first down. They'll have to punt.
Incomplete. The receiver was bobbling the ball after reset.
See right here, his feet are in bounds, but he didn't have control of the ball, is what they're saying. They're saying he was bobbling. I don't know that he bobbled this at all.
I don't think he did.
No, he didn't bobble that at all.
That's a good catch.
No. When they made up that sign of bobble, they made one up because there's no bobble there.
Got his hand underneath it.
Yeah. No. That was the old phantom bobble.
Ruin back to punt. Low snap. Powerful leg. Freddie Solomon will return. He only gets a couple of yards before John Mobley.
Mobley fly down there, didn't he?
Remember the first time we saw him? 35-2 Denver. Back at Mile High Stadium, 35-2. Terrell Davis down on the sideline. He might be through for the day. But pretty good numbers nevertheless. Pretty good.
Usually when they take the hard hat off and put the cloth hat on, that means that they are done for the day.
Hoying looking at Neil Smith. Low to Jason Dunn. Right now, let's send you down to the sidelines and Don Tollefson.
Hey, Pat, as you and John mentioned, nothing wrong with Terrell Davis. He's healthy and very, very satisfied with his effort. They're just not going to play him here in the second half, apparently. Bill Romanowski, though, still in the Broncos locker room. He has a problem with that groin, and when you have this big lead in this kind of a game and a big game next week against Seattle, last thing you want to see is a guy get hurt, but Romo has a groin problem. Back upstairs.
All right, Don, thank you. Hoying back to throw. Just ducks under the pressure. And it comes from Keith Traylor.
Keith Trailer, he's so proud of himself. He's pumping that 9 and that 4. He can't believe it. Keith Trailer is one of the middle guys, and what they do is they start on a twist. You see him there. He started, and then he does what they call a twist or a twins, and just the two tackles. Trailer goes one way, Price goes the other way. They just exchange. Then he just came right up the middle free.
3rd and 10. 3 wide receivers set up. Now if they can protect him. Incomplete. Intended for Irving. Pryor out of his reach.
You know, we talked about Bill Romanowski being out. The guy taking his place, of course, is Seth Joyner.
Ex-Eagle.
Talking about Romanowski being an ex-Eagle. So the ex-Eagle, Romanowski goes out, and another ex-Eagle, Seth Joyner, comes in and takes his place.
Tommy Hutton is number 4. 7 punts already. This will be number 8. This is his best of the day. Gordon got a few blockers. Flag on the play, as there usually seems to be.
This field seems to be a heavier or more slippery field than it usually is here. When the Eagles came out here to practice yesterday, they talked about how high the grass was.
Long grass, yeah.
And then today it looked like a lot of players have slipped.
Yeah. Here comes Bill Romanowski.
The kicking team downfield offense, number 58. Declined. First down.
First down, Denver. They lead it 35-2. Third quarter at Mile High Stadium at Summerall with John Madden.
You look at those Philadelphia Eagle offensive linemen down there, and one thing that really has to upset them is they've only run for 6 yards today. The Broncos have run for 192, and the Eagles will only run for 100. And when you're an offensive lineman, you take that personally.
That's Derek LaVille. Interesting story about the line coach.
Yeah, Juan Castillo right there
on crutches.
Yeah, he was walking in the stadium and he got hit by one of those golf cart type things.
Yeah. Utility truck or something.
He tried to keep coaching, and Ray Rhodes says you had to do something, and went to the doctor and needed surgery, and they put a pin in his leg, and he was back the same day coaching.
Brister from behind. Hugh Douglas with the rush on Brister.
That was a good move by Hugh Douglas. He got up the field and then came back underneath. A lot of those times those rushers will just get up the field and then they'll continue up the field. But watch Hugh Douglas here. He gets up. Now he stops and comes back under. I mean, the easiest thing to do is to run beyond the quarterback and end up behind him. I used to tell my guys, hey, look, there's no reason to be behind the quarterback. He's not going to lateral to you. You got to make that move that Hugh Douglas made coming underneath.
3 wide receivers set up. Brister drops the throw and hits a wide open Rod Smith. Rod Smith will get a Bronco first down.
The other thing that's always impressed me about this Bronco team is how smart they are. I mean, they don't play the most physical of games, but they have quickness and they're very precise, but they're very intelligent. I mean, they know they get in the shotgun. Rod Smith coming on across here, gets the ball, now knows exactly where that first down marker is and how to get to it. You know, and just get beyond and get the first down. Hey, Rhodes, that's the sign and the stance and the movement of frustration.
All you can do is shake your head. That's Vaughn Hebron. And he gets about 8 yards. You know, you're talking about this Bronco team, John. We were at practice yesterday, and I was saying they have a youthful look about them. And you had an interesting observation too. They have a very sleek look about them.
A lean look. Yeah, you don't see. There's a lot of fat guys in the NFL now, and like I said, I mean, we have a group, the Brotherhood of United Bad Bodies of America. But on this team here, you don't see a lot of bad bodies. I mean, on offense or defense. I mean, they say that. Remember when in the Super Bowl they said this line is too small. They're not going to be able to handle the Green Bay Packers. They weren't too small, and they did.
That's Hebron again, and he'll get enough for a first down. Yesterday we spoke to Denver linebacker Bill Romanowski about the differences in the team between this season and last season.
I think we're stronger this year. I think we're stronger in a lot of positions. We have better backup players. Mike has done a great job of keeping us focused, not letting us get complacent. And training camp was a little tougher this year, and I think the hard work is paying off.
Well, he said Mike has kept us focused. He challenged the defense today, and they have risen to his challenge.
And he's kept them focused all the way through. They had their best off-season workout, and as Romanowski was saying there, they had a tough training camp, and now Mike Shanahan says it's a 16-round fight.
Brister gets it out to Howard Griffith.
That's the bone that Griffith gets.
Yep.
And, it's just what the fuck, because he's been blocking all day, and he's been blocking great. I mean, he blocked for Terrell Davis all those yards, and they put in Derek Lavelle, and he's been blocking just 2 plays ago, a great block. And then they finally figured, we got this poor guy, he's been a ramrod all day, let's give him the bone. And that's his bone, a little 2-yard pass. But I'll tell you, he has done a job. I mean, if you said all the guys that have the most respect on this team, he would be like in the top 5. Howard Griffith would be on this team.
We talk about losses from one team to another. The Carolina Panthers have not been the same since they lost Howard Griffith.
Kerry Collins hasn't been the same.
No. Brister, pass caught by Smith. Rod Smith, who had such an intimidating good year last year for Denver. This year he's still a part of the machine, but it's only a part.
Yeah, that's the thing. They started to do things for Rod Smith. Like we were saying, they gave him some double coverage. They would rotate their zones toward Rod Smith, and that's why Ed McCaffrey was so successful at the early part of the season. Now they're starting to do things to McCaffrey, so you see Rod Smith getting more into the game plan.
McCaffrey was on the move. That's Lavelle, who with a second effort gets a Denver first down.
One of the things you think of Ed McCaffrey and as a wide receiver, and the thing with this Bronco team, the wide receivers also have to be blockers, but even at the point of attack, watch McCaffrey here. He's going to come in motion. Now he has to come back here and seal this backside for the run there. Now that's a wide receiver coming in and ending up in a tight end position. And you see he got a little block there that really freed Lavelle to get the first down.
First and 10 at the 31. Here's Brister. The Eagles blitz. Brister going deep to Smith, who's in a neighborhood by himself and in the end zone.
Al Harris was the corner out there. I think he fell down. I don't think he fell down. I knew he fell down. But that's the easy one. Here's Al Harris here. Now watch as he goes to make the little out move. He fights on the out, and then he slips and falls down. But it didn't make any difference if he fell down or not. He went for that double move. Was the old out and up?
Out and up, yeah.
Al Harris went for the out. Rod Smith went for the up. So Bubby Brister. Boy, this is way, way too easy now.
Ruin for the extra point. I don't think so. That's a bad-looking extra point.
That's one of the few bad-looking things this the Broncos team has done, though.
41-2. 41-2. The Denver Broncos are tough at this stadium. They're tough anywhere. Corey Larry Walker on the return. Look back at that last touchdown, John.
Yeah, you know how everything is team. I mean, the first thing you have to do is get pass protection. Now watch this pass protection. When Bubby Brister is ready to throw the ball, look, there's no one here. There's no one near him. So he can not only see, but he can step up to throw the perfect pass. And on the other end here, we know what Rod Smith does, a little out. Al Harris bites for the out. Then he falls down. Bubby Brister lays it in there perfectly. But it all starts, you can have all those pass patterns out and up, double moves, all that stuff. But if the line doesn't pass protect like that, none of those other things ever happen.
Charlie Garner behind Hoying. Jason Dunn. The offensive line deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, this is a group that, again, they don't talk to the media, but they do a heck of a job. I mean, you know, of pass protection, of run blocking. Tony Jones, left tackle. Mark Schlereth here. Tom Neal in the center. Real good Dan Neal. Harry Swain, right tackle, has been a real surprise for these guys. And they lost Gary Zimmerman. You know, they needed someone to step in, and that guy was Harry Swain, the right tackle.
This is a Denver timeout. Probably the next time the Broncos get the ball, it'll be Brian Greasy, rookie from Michigan, their third-round draft choice at quarterback. Son of a guy you know pretty well.
Yep, Bob Greasy, and the Miami Dolphin quarterback under Don Shula. And there's only been one undefeated team in the history of the National Football League, and his dad led that team.
That's Garner. Put out of bounds by Gordon. Flag on the play.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 21, 15 yards down, offense, first down.
That's number 21.
Yep.
Right there is Darian Gordon. You're going to see again, he has him, and then right there he gives him that little shove after he gets out of bounds. And I think that this is a time that the officials do have to get pretty close on this stuff, because when you get a route like this, you're going to have, you know, frustration, and you're going to have things happen, and I think the officials have to call it pretty tight around now.
4.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Hoying has the Eagles in Bronco territory. That may be the first time today. Hoying for Jason Dunn. Incomplete. Hit him right in the numbers.
Yeah, we were talking about the Bronco offensive line and how they don't talk during the week to the press, and they don't talk to anyone. Part of that is their coach Alex Gibbs, as we see here. We see that ball was darn near intercepted.
Yeah, and then it hit Dunn right in the numbers. McTire had it go through his hands. Not to be confused with McTire. McTire it is.
When I first saw that McTire, I thought that was Tim McTire. Tim McTire is now out of football.
That's Garner.
I was talking about that offensive line, Pat. It's Alex Gibbs is their coach, and Alex Gibbs, he doesn't talk to the media, and you know, it's kind of a thing. So then they didn't want any of their linemen talk to the media. It's kind of a fun thing if someone does. There's Alex Gibbs right there, and it's kind of a joke. And you know that they're just the grunts. They just do the work, and they shouldn't get any publicity. And if anyone writes a story about any of the offensive linemen, then he has a fine system. They get fined. So then they don't want to talk to the media because they don't want to get fined, because they don't want anyone to write anything about it.
Which is most unusual. Hoying gets it outside to Irving Pryor.
But as I always said, winning is a great deal.
Oh, yeah.
And when you win, everything becomes fun and funny. And when you lose, there is nothing fun, nor is there anything funny.
Got a better look at the headset now. Shanahan does.
Yeah, when you're ahead 41-2, you don't have to put as much through that headset as you did earlier.
Garner to the 25. 41-2 the score. The Eagles' best offensive effort by far.
I know you were talking to Jeff Lurie earlier, the owner of the Eagles, and he was feeling good about one part of their team, or two parts, I guess, the offensive line and the special teams. But that's the way I think you do build a team, is through the offensive line. Then when you get that and you get solid, then you got to go get your quarterback, and that's what they really have to do now.
Going back to throw. To Kevin Turner. And why even run a play?
Well, that's, Ray Rhodes was saying he really likes Kevin Turner, and he wants to get the ball to him 5 to 7 times a game. He's not just a blocker. He's a guy that he feels when he gets the ball in his hands can do something with it. But when you're down 41-2, the Kevin Turners of the world aren't going to blow this thing open for you.
I'm not sure who is.
Well, you got to take some shots for Irving Fryar, is what I would say.
Boeing pitches back to Garner. And Garner does not get the first. Mobley is the first Bronco defender there.
It didn't do any good, but watching Trey Thomas run, you can see what an athlete he is. When you get a guy who's like 6'8" and 350 pounds and can run like that in the open field, he doesn't get anyone, but just the way he runs, 350 pounds to be able to move like that. Of course, you have to be able to move back inside and hit a blue jersey, but he looks good running.
4th and 1, and the Eagles, of course, will go for it. Now the Bronco fans are taking the stand, and Hoying has got room to run for a first down if he wants, and he does.
During that process, he had a couple of guys open. He had 2 crossing patterns, and that's usually what you do on a bootleg. You bootleg, and then you have guys crossing from the other side of the field. And he did have them open at different periods. See, as he's going to come out here, now watch his crosses. You see, here's a cross right here. Oh, he ran into the official. That's the problem with that cross. But at some point, he's going to get open. And he did get open after he ran into the umpire.
1st and 10 Eagles, just outside the 14. A lot of noise coming out of that end zone.
Now those are the South stands, and they've been as noisy as any group in football. Look, and they're proud of themselves now. Look at it. I remember in the old days, our locker room, Pat, our locker room door used to be right there, right underneath these people. And you'd go in there, and they'd be throwing stuff at you here, and then you'd be in there trying to talk, and they'd be jumping up and down, and you couldn't hear yourself talk or hear yourself think. That's an excuse.
From hearing you talk about the times you came here with the Raiders when you were the coach, I get the idea, the feeling, just me maybe, that they didn't like you much here.
No, they didn't. No, they really didn't. It was very, very competitive, and in fact, we lost a championship game here. And one of the years that the Denver Broncos went on and played the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. But it was this group here, man. They were a lot louder in those days, I'll guarantee you. These are the sons of those people.
You just thought they were
daughters of those
people. You just thought they were louder.
I knew they were louder.
That's Garner inside the 5.
I think one of the things Ray Rhodes wanted to do is to use a backfield with Charlie Gardner and Deuce Staley, because Deuce Staley has been a halfback, but he can also play fullback. So they got that formation that they call Thunder, and he would like to mix that in with part of it where he's in with Kevin Turner like they're in now. And when you get down to the goal line, you don't want the 2 halfbacks in there. You want the big fullback like you got right here, Kevin Turner, to do your leading.
Garner's deep. And that's the end of the 3rd quarter with the score, the Denver Broncos 41, the Philadelphia Eagles 2. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after a word from your local Fox station. The Broncos don't want to him in the end zone. Defense. You know, D and then a picket fence.
Now, these fans are great fans here, though. I will say that. They've always, even when the Broncos weren't a winning team, they've always supported this team.
Here's Garner, and he's going to get in. Charlie Garner scores the first Philadelphia touchdown of the afternoon. A little late.
Oh, is it just play? I mean, it does give them something. I mean, you got to get started. They got another quarter to play, and you got to keep going at it.
Ricky Waters.
Yeah, got a little heavy in the offseason.
Yeah, he's not here anymore.
Seattle.
Chris Bonio hits the extra point.
I think they canned the center on that one.
Yeah. 41-9, Denver.
Makers of the amazing Pentium 2 processor. And by Dr. Pepper in your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, this is the taste.
Spectacular scenery around Denver. To the west. Surrounding. Bonio to kick off. Hebron back deep for Denver, and he'll have a chance at returning this one. To the 28.
Remember that extra point, Pat? I was saying can the center. Remember when you were a kid, you said no can in the center, that when the center's bent over and he has a ball between his legs like that you can't hit him and knock him over? Watch these guys can the center. That's a double can on the center.
They must not know that game.
Well, they didn't call it. No, if you don't call it, if you don't call no can in the center, you can the center.
Brian Greasy is the Denver quarterback. Son of Bob, and they tell us he looks very good. That's Vaughn Hebron, the ball carrier. Bubby Brister had a very successful day. Touchdown pass to Rod Smith. Touchdown pass to Shannon Sharp. Touchdown pass to Ed McCaffrey. Touchdown pass to Rod Smith. 4 touchdown passes.
I would say when your backup quarterback can come in and throw 4 touchdown passes, he's keeping the machine going.
Ties his career record. That's Hebron again.
You know, Mike Shanahan was saying yesterday that he was hoping to get a game like this where he could give Brian Greasy a little time. He said he didn't want to just put him in there, at the end of a game and just have him kneel down. He wanted to get him in there and let him play and get a feel for some regular season football. And I'll tell you, if he's as cool as his dad, this stuff isn't going to bother him at all.
He's bigger than his dad.
I'll tell you, his dad can play.
Oh, yeah.
His dad was good.
Incomplete. Vaughn Hebron, the intended receiver, should have had it.
I remember watching the Rose Bowl, and it was Brian Greasy against Ryan Leaf. And everything that Ryan Leaf would do, Brian Greasy would do. I mean, he was throwing the ball like this in the Rose Bowl.
Hey, that's a good throw right there.
I said, I said, Ryan Leaf was one of the first players picked. This kid ought to be. I didn't see Ryan Leaf do anything in the Rose Bowl that I didn't see Brian Greasy do.
Well, he had some great days in his collegiate career at Michigan. This one into the end zone. 71-yard punt. He was averaging about 50. Would you fly in that plane?
Nope, never have, never will, never would have. I don't know anyone that would. I don't know anyone that would fly in something like that.
Oh, I would.
You would?
Yeah. It's got 2 wings. That's more than what I usually fly.
You fly in one of those things that's painted yellow?
Yeah.
It's a joke. places to play, and part of it's a crowd, part of it's the Denver Broncos, and they always remind you of the altitude here. Like it's called Mile High Stadium. They even have a sign in the locker room that gives the elevation. Here it is right here. Look at this. This is in the visitors' locker room. Elevation, 5,280 feet. So you come in here to play, and you're constantly reminded of it.
And inevitably, that's what you talk about. Oh, remember, the air is thin in Denver.
Yeah, you need oxygen. And you bring the oxygen, and you have that over in your sideline, and then you look out there and you see the mountains, so you know that you're up in them. And then Mile High Stadium, and then they have to put that sign in your locker room to remind you.
Just to make sure you know.
Yeah.
2nd and 8.
With a team like this, against a team like the Eagles, that's the last thing they need.
Hoying appears to be changing the play. People looking around. Mike Lodish might have jumped.
Before the snap.
Some oxygen.
Start off. It's number 72.
Oh, he's pulled off.
Second down.
Yep, there's the oxygen there. Or one time I mentioned last time we were here that how you have water and stuff over there, and you just pick it up and you just drink them up. One time we'd made a long drive and guys were getting oxygen. I went over and put an oxygen thing, and the whole offensive line was lined up behind me. And for 5 years they never let me forget that.
You took my oxygen.
I did. I took their oxygen in Denver.
Here's Hoying, bounced to the ground. Today's game is being produced by Bob Stinner, directed by Sandy Grossman. Associate directors Mike Roig. The broadcast associates are Fran Morrison and Charles McDonald. Technical producer Bob Muller. Studio is produced by Scott Ackerson, directed by Bob Levy. The associate director was Jennifer Love. Senior producer is Bill Brown. The executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill. 41-9. Denver leading Philadelphia. To Garner.
See, Hoying has been hit 11 times. And after you've been hit 11 times in a game, sometimes you just fall when you start to twist or you go into your own guy. That was going down again way too easy. But he's been knocked around there pretty good by this Bronco defense today, and I think not only knocked around physically, but frustrated mentally and emotionally.
Been a tough day. Hutton gets off another good punt. Gordon retreats. Slips out of bounds. Trying to cut back. And Denver will take over. Flag on the play.
I tell you, that was a late flag, and I think it was one of the Eagles hitting Gordon after he was down. If you watch Gordon right there at the end, he went down, and someone came in and hit him late on the sideline.
Well, he slid out of bounds when he tried to cut back.
It looks like the Broncos are going back.
Yep.
It doesn't look like it's against the Eagles.
For blocking the back, all the action was legal.
All the action was legal.
Oh. He called it, went through that, and then said all the action was legal.
Denver leading 41-9. The Eagles, their quarterback troubles go back to Randall Cunningham in 1995. He was the starter, replaced by Rodney Peete, coach's decision. Rodney Peete replaced by Ty Detmer when Rodney was hurt. And that's going to go on and on. We'll be back to that. Derek Lavelle. In 1997, Ty Detmer started. His record was 2-5. Rodney Peete replaced him. And Bobby Hoying then came on and finished the season. That was all the coach's decision. Now this year, Hoying was the starter. Rodney Peete replaced him. Moved the club pretty well last week against Kansas City. Now Hoying is back against Denver. And this is Coy Detmer, Ty Detmer's brother, who appears to be destined to be the next in that line of quarterback. Pass is picked off by Mike Caldwell, and Caldwell is cut down at about the 5-yard line, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Brian Greasy didn't have enough on this one. It's a zone defense, and if you're going to throw an out against a zone defense, you have to get it outside and low, and you have to get it out there quicker. Caldwell was just sitting back there in the zone, and that ball stays in the air way too long.
Yep.
Watch, he's on the right hash mark. He throws it out to the right, and Caldwell just jumped right underneath that thing.
And here's Coy Detmer.
You were going through those Philadelphia quarterbacks, and it's the old story to me. I've always said when you have 2 or 3, that means you have none. And really, since Randall Cunningham went down, the Eagles really, to be honest, haven't had the number 1 quarterback.
Coy Detmer back to throw it. Ducks under 1, throws back across the field to Jason Dunn. After all that, Dunn's out of bounds at about the 3 or 2-yard gain.
I was going to say it's going to be a completion, not a touchdown. That's one of the things. We saw Brett Favre do that, for a touchdown last week. But you always teach, don't run one way and then throw across your body across the field the other way. Detmer just did it. He threw a duck, and they caught it, but it wasn't a touchdown.
The difference is Brett Favre, you don't see throw many ducks.
No, Brett Favre puts mustard on it in a tight spiral. Old Coy Detmer was hit as he threw that one.
Detmer, touchdown, Garner. Ball came loose after he got in the end zone.
That's the same play they scored earlier on, and you saw Glenn Cudrez, the middle linebacker, trying to get there, and he's upset because he doesn't get there because he was talking after the last one that he should have that play. You see, and he's coming here, and he waits just a little too long, and then the cutback, you see, he gets there just a little late because he waited for the first cutback.
Garner gave him a little juke to the inside and froze him right there.
After the last touchdown, I saw him talking to Greg Robinson, the defensive coordinator, and Robinson was kind of giving him a heck about that.
Bonio, extra point's good.
And it happened again. He dips in there, and Charlie Gardner does give him a little dip in there and then gets to the outside.
41-16. Next, it's Game 4 of the NL Division Series as the Padres will be looking to close out the series and move on to the NLCS, while the Astros try to force a pivotal Game 5 and keep their postseason hopes alive. Find out next, following football at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on Fox. That's coming up next. Bonio's kick. They're expecting an onside kick. That's Von Hebron, who slipped. Starting pitchers in tonight's game here on Fox. Game 4, Randy Johnson and Sterling Hitchcock making his first career postseason start. Randy Johnson lost Game 1, but he pitched very, very well. Struck out 9.
And the chances of Randy Johnson losing another one, I think are kind of slim. And of course, I've had the radar gun on those guys. I'd like to put a radar gun on Randy Johnson. The guy that had the radar gun said the fastest he ever saw was 103-mile-an-hour fastball. It was a surprise to me because I would have picked a lot of other guys, but this guy that he told me wasn't a guy. He's been around a long time. I'll tell you that. This may be like a trivia question.
It is
103 miles an hour. He's around a long time, but to me, what I know about baseball, he was never known as a fastball pitcher. He was never known for his speed.
But you can't remember who he was.
No, I remember. No, I was just waiting.
Oh, you were asking me
a question.
I was going to say Nolan Ryan.
No, that's what I would have thought. Someone like that, or Randy Johnson.
Was it Tom Seaver?
No, it was Earl Hershiser.
Earl Hershiser.
Yeah, that's what it was. The guy said that's the fastest he ever timed, and Earl Hershiser. 103 mile an hour.
Wow, I would have never guessed that.
No.
I would have guessed something's wrong with the gun before I said that.
Or the guy. I mean, maybe there was a guy in New York. You know, I don't know who the guy is. He told me 103. What do I know? They're all her size. It had to be someone.
Well,
it was the fastest the guy ever did.
You were at the baseball game.
And the fastest I ever did was David Wells, 93.
Didn't Rivera throw 95, 96 that night?
Yeah, but I wasn't on the gun then.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he threw it later after I was off the gun. But you know the thing is with David Wells, I mean, they took guys off the subject, but the thing is David Wells was throwing like 93-mile-an-hour fastball, and then his stuff was like 73 or 74, so there was a 20-mile-an-hour difference between his fastball and his stuff.
That's what made his fastball so effective, I think.
I mean, so you're waiting for that 93 and you get to 73, then you're waiting for the 73 and you get to 93.
David Wells looks to me as if he could possibly make an All-Madden team.
I already put him on.
Oh, he's on?
Yeah, I put him on the All-Madden team that night.
Pat Bowen, the owner of the Broncos.
But you know, David Wells looks like a nose tackle, but he pitches like a surgeon. I mean, he doesn't throw like a nose tackle.
He looks like a nose tackle who couldn't play for Denver, because he doesn't look like he's finely tuned.
No, he's not as finely tuned as most of these bodies.
Freddie Solomon back deep.
But who would have thought that Terrell Davis in high school in San Diego
would have been
was a nose tackle?
He has a nose tackle temperament when he runs with the ball.
You know, another guy that knows a nose tackle temperament as he plays quarterback is Brett Favre.
Yeah.
What's this?
His ball was partially blocked. The Eagles fielded it, lost it. And I don't know who got it back. Nobody.
I think rugby broke out. I think it's like rugby.
Yeah.
You see that?
Bodies everywhere.
I mean, that punt came out, and then it was coming out sideways, then it was tipped, and then someone else got it, then it was fumbled, and it went backwards, and then they all jumped on the pile.
It was partially blocked.
They ring around the roses.
Denver got it. Partially blocked by Tim McTire. There's Ruin.
There's a partial block right there. And then it was just about caught and fumbled, wasn't it? After
yes,
that?
It was. By one of the Eagle linebackers.
But there's a partial block. That make it go sideways.
I think it's William Thomas who finally wound up with it after it was partially blocked.
See, the reason it was partially blocked is he took that extra step there. Then it was caught. Then it was started to be returned. Then it was knocked out. That was Al Harris.
Al Harris.
And then he fumbled it. And then another lo and behold.
Boy, Detmer, the Eagle quarterback. Detmer hands to Staley, who's taken down by Neil Smith after he loses a couple.
What if you would have said before the game, you don't know what the score is, but the quarterbacks in this game are going to be Brian Greasy and Troy Detmer. What would you guess?
I would have said
what would have happened before that?
I would have said I didn't want to be with you last night.
Seems like everywhere around this league this year there's backup quarterback playing, though.
Trent Green and Jason Garrett. Detmer throws it out to Staley. He gets nothing.
Well, you know, if you just look at the NFC East, and now they're struggling this year, just look at their quarterbacks, and that's the reason.
Yeah. Danny Cannell.
Bobby Hoying. Jason
Garrett. Trent Green.
Jake Plummer.
And Jake Plummer, second year.
Remember when it used to be? I mean, you used to have your Theismans and your Simses and your Troy Aikmans and Cunninghams, and everyone had a gun, and then everyone had a defense in that division too.
Yeah.
Those Eagles defenses, Reggie White.
Ball goes straight up in the air. Detmer's hit just as he cocked his arm by Neil Smith, and Detmer's slow to get up. Not very big, about the same size as his brother.
Well, Neil Smith got in there and hit everything about the same time. He hit Detmer in the head and the arm and the ball and everything. Here's Neil Smith there. And watch him, he just drove him right into the turf. Look, his legs were still moving. He still thought he was trying to get some traction. That was where he had his toes up over his nose.
So Hutton in to punt. Darian Gordon back deep for Denver. Hutton's 10th punt today. That's a new career high for Tommy Hutton. The ball bounds into and out of the end zone.
And Neil Smith, they're checking that hand. That was the hand that he laid on Coy Detmer. Made Detmer go on his back. He still has a Band-Aid on his nose. That's the thing. You know how you touch that thing somewhere, that deal right in there between your thumb and your first finger? And you touch that, and then that makes the whole thing go.
That
right there.
Web in there?
Yeah. You see, you got it. Yeah, and it shoots right up your arm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we've all had that one. I don't remember what it is, but I remember that where they touch something and it goes all the way up.
I know you don't want him to touch it again. That's Vaughn Hebron, the ball carrier. Flag on the play.
Usually when the referee throws that, it's going to be offensive holding. Usually on the right side of the line. The referee and a right-handed quarterback stands on his right side, watches a quarterback, and also watches the right side of the offensive line.
Holding, offense number 78. 10 yards, first down.
That's Matt Lepsis.
They like him. They think he's going to be a player.
Yeah, and he is the right tackle, and that's who the referee was looking at. He was the tackle on that side. Again, when you see a referee and a right-handed quarterback call holding, it's usually going to be on the right tackle. But he was a tight end. He was a tight end in college, and sometimes those guys make pretty good tackles.
Well, you know they're pretty good athletes. The fumble. And they got it back. Vaughn Hebron.
Vaughn Hebron is another one of these Denver Broncos that used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
You know, as you look at this Bronco team, they're made up of a lot of guys that used to play other places. You look at Neil Smith there. We know he was at Kansas City. Traylor was with him at Kansas City. McCaffrey, he was with a number of teams, including the 49ers. Vaughn Hebron, Philadelphia. Seth Joyner, Bill Romanowski, Philadelphia. Bubby Brister, Philadelphia.
And others.
Yeah, a lot of guys were with teams and others.
That's Vaughn Hebron again. 41-16 the score with 4 minutes left to play down.
You know, one thing, I mean, there's not a lot of good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to be 0-5 today. But next week, they get to play the Washington Redskins. And they're really, to be honest with you, when they come in here with this team, they're really outclassed. But now next week, it's kind of like who's the best of those bottom teams, and they can kind of start fighting that battle a while.
Or who's the worst.
Yeah, then that's the downer for that.
Here's Hebron. Down before he got to the first down marker. But the clock keeps running, and here comes the Denver punting team, Tom Ruin.
You look at this Philadelphia defense, and they don't have the dominant defensive player that they had, over the years.
No.
They don't have that guy. They don't have the quarterback, and that's tough when you don't have a dominant defensive player in your front seven, nor do you have a quarterback or a great running game. I mean, there's not a lot of things there. You kind of have to hang your hat on your special teams
and the offensive line. Here's Ruin. And a flag on the play. That's Freddie Solomon. Slides in midfield. The ball's out of there, but he was down.
Boy, you talk about collisions in football, and I think on punt return and kickoff returns are some of the most violent collisions, other than that slant pass on offense, are the most violent collisions that we have.
Well, you get so many yards to get up ahead of steam and hit somebody.
Well, it starts out there in the outside, and those guys always do a battle out there. They just get knocked sideways and everything, and where the real collisions are inside, right there in the bottom of the screen.
There was a flag on that play, but they picked it up, so no penalty.
the second
Offside.
time.
Defense, number 35. That foul is declined. First down.
That one was declined. But on another one, they had a penalty, and then they said there was no penalty.
Yep.
Although I think that this has been a pretty well-officiated game today, and these are the kind that, because the Eagles are going to be frustrated, it could get a little sloppy and could get a little out of hand. I think the officials have done a good job of keeping control of this game.
I agree. Walker gets the carry.
I think the Eagles are just trying to run the clock out, and and get out of town. And like I said, next week get back in their conference, get back in their division, get one of those rivalry type of games. And Ray Rhodes, he's going to be down for a couple of days, but by Wednesday or Thursday, get them all fired up for the Eagle-Redskin game.
Barrett Brooks has replaced Trey Thomas. Detmer's pass is knocked away, and Mobley comes up limping.
Ooh, that's what they don't want to see right now. That looks like, that's the old thing. Remember, that's the same thing it looked like John Elway had, and that's when they grab the back of the leg. It's one of two things: either a pulled hamstring or a cramp.
Right.
And as a coach and as a player and as a trainer, you always hope when they do that it's just a cramp. When you're ahead 41-16 with 2 minutes left in the game, you don't want that to happen to one of your better players. We don't want it to happen to anyone.
But certainly not a key man like Mobley.
Denver has a big game next week against Seattle.
They sure do. Walker takes a pass from Detmer and gets out of bounds inside the Denver 15. I think Mobley had a cramp. 41-16, less than 2. Eagles have the ball, trailing 41-16. Troy Detmer is their quarterback. And Detmer fires incomplete. For Irving Pryor had it, dropped it.
Troy Detmer, you talk about a family, and his brother Ty played for Green Bay, played here with the Philadelphia Eagles, is now with the San Francisco 49ers, and he's a real competitor. I mean, he's been a quarterback all his life, and his brother was a quarterback, his dad was his coach, and the Detmer family is a real football family.
Detmer drops again and throws again. Incomplete again.
Of course, this is kind of one of Troy Detmer's homes. He played here at the University of Colorado.
Right.
But he's thrown a couple of shots in here. I mean, he likes this thing, this slant comes in there. That's a little behind him. That's a tough one there. Now, if you don't hit that slant perfectly, there's nothing that the receiver can do about it, because he has to catch that thing on the run. If you throw it too late, and I see a lot of quarterbacks doing that, they're leading them right into the free safety in a real collision.
That's Mark Carrier. Detmer was hit as he cocked his arm.
And Neil Smith gets another baseball swing.
Yep. Neil Smith around the corner.
Neil Smith has kind of been having his way over there. He's been on any quarterback the Eagles have had in there just about all day. Then he comes from the outside here. Then there he is. He was outside the screen. He came outside, and then he just came and hit Detmer just as he threw the ball.
1:44 left now. 4th and 10 at the Denver 14. Detmer backs out. Flag on the play.
5 yards. 4th down.
Neil Smith has really picked his game up.
Yep.
I think that part of it is being ahead, and it's a little easier to play defense when you're ahead. But he's given Richard Cooper over there at right tackle kind of all he can handle today.
It's much easier to rush the passer when you're way ahead like this.
Well, you know, Ray Rhodes was saying that when he was the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, and he said Shanahan would tell him how many points he was going to get, and he said that always made Ray feel good because he could be a lot more aggressive on defense.
Detmer lofting for the end zone, incomplete, and no flag intended for Cincino.
One of the guys that was a free agent for this team, and Kasim Cincino, and was a pleasant surprise that came in, and he was kind of heavy and didn't look like anything at a mini camp. Came back the next time, lost 30 pounds, and
can run.
And the Eagles are really impressed with him as a future tight end. Out of Syracuse, it wasn't even drafted.
So the Broncos will take over. Minute 39 left. Each team has 2 timeouts remaining. The Broncos say, let's just run it out.
They started their kneel down at a minute 30.
Yep.
And Mike Shanahan is just going to kneel down again. Mike Shanahan, a good friend of Ray Rhodes. They were on the same staff, the San Francisco 49ers. Look at that, 5-0.
Don't forget, coming up next, baseball, the Houston Astros and the San Diego Padres, Game 4. If there is another game, it's Monday night. Another kneel down, less than a minute. 19 consecutive regular season wins for these Denver Broncos here at Mile High Stadium.
You know, and you think with John Elway's injury with a hamstring, like I said earlier, you kind of know that that's going to be better in a few weeks. With the back, you don't know about that. You have to think that Mike Shanahan and this whole Bronco organization has to be real happy that Bill Romanowski made a call and said, hey, why don't you give Bubby Brister a try? I think he may be able to do something.
Here comes Mike Shanahan over to say hello, at least to Ray Rhodes. They work together in San Francisco. 41-16. Denver victorious. That's a final. A long afternoon for the Eagles at Mile High.